It was a summoned beast that the entire world had scorned. Yet the moment I called it forth, I joyfully embraced it and showered it with kisses. Seeing this, my classmates began mocking me one by one, calling me a fool. Even my class teacher, who had once held such high hopes for me, cursed me in anger, saying I'd wasted all his hard work. I just smiled and said nothing. Instead, I sold off all my savings and somehow scraped together enough money to buy 100 pounds of monster beast meat, all just to awaken the hidden talent within that little dog. I reached out and gently stroked its small head. A contract notification echoed in my mind. Loyalty will never betray. Begin life bond relationship. Without any hesitation, I chose yes. It felt like my soul was splitting apart. I screamed in pain and collapsed to the ground. My classmates around me thought I'd cracked under pressure, and their mockery intensified. My beautiful school girlfriend Liu Ruyan came over too. There was a hint of apology in her voice as she said, "I'm sorry, for people from ordinary families like us, the exam is the only way to climb the social ladder. Li Liang, who's a spear knight, just agreed to team up with me, so I won't be going with you anymore." I stood up and replied in a calm voice, "It's fine." The simplicity of my answer shocked her, and the words she'd prepared got stuck in her throat. A slight feeling of contempt rose in her chest. She frowned coldly and turned away without looking back. A girl standing nearby looked at me with disgust. "He's just pretending it doesn't matter. Ruyan, you did nothing wrong. Why are you apologizing? He can only summon a palm-sized black dog. What makes him think he's worthy of you?" But I paid no attention to either of them, because as soon as the life bond relationship was complete, I discovered that the little dog had awakened an SS-Rank talent, gluttonous hunger. Whatever it ate could be converted into energy. It could grow without limits and evolve by breaking through every constraint. It seemed like the pain was completely worth it. People with SS-Rank talents across the entire country were extremely rare. Whenever a new talent emerged, the whole nation would protect them because they were incredibly powerful. I picked up the small black dog and said, "From now on, your name is Haiming. Work hard for me." Haiming happily licked me and his face lit up. I tossed him a piece of meat. Within moments, he devoured it completely. Ordinary meat consumed. Purification value increased by 0.5%. With a notification sound, Haiming's body grew slightly larger, and all his basic attributes increased by 1 point. All from eating just one piece of ordinary meat. If he could consume even more food going forward, what terrifying heights could he reach? The thought made my heart race uncontrollably. I was even more amazed when I felt that my own strength had also increased slightly. It seemed some of the energy Haiming gained was flowing back to me. So I spent a little over 6,000 to buy 100 pounds of mutant beast meat. Then, with just a thought, I summoned Haiming. As soon as Haiming saw the blood-red mutant beast meat before him, a tremendous deep hunger surged within him. He immediately opened his jaws and began tearing into the meat, frantically converting every piece into his own body. As Haiming continued eating without stopping, waves of energy surged within him. His size began rapidly growing before my very eyes. At that same moment, I too felt improvements coursing through my entire body. Half an hour passed. Haiming's body had grown to over 2 meters. All my attributes had increased by 10 points each, enough to set me apart even among the best in any class. Haiming's almost cheat-like power-boosting method could close the gap between me and others at an incredible pace. Without further delay, I pressed the evolution button in the system. As the notification bell rang, a terrifying wave of talent trembled from within Haiming's body. A flood of special black evolutionary energy burst outward, cells divided, genes recombined, life leaped toward a higher existence. Congratulations! Your summoned beast Haiming has acquired a rank skill and awakened a new talent, gigantification. Body size increased 3-fold. Strength and defense increased by 300%, speed decreased by 50%. With this evolution, all of Haiming's attributes reached above 50 points, and this was only level 1. Yet the attributes were so high that even top-tier summoned beasts couldn't compare. Summoned beasts were divided into 4 categories: low, medium, high, and top. The classification standard was talent. S rank was high tier, double S rank was top tier. No one had ever seen a summoned beast with double S rank talent before. After that, I went home with Haiming to sleep and prepare well for the next day's exam. The next morning, countless participants gathered in the square to take the entrance exam. Lu Dongwen was explaining in detail the main points to keep in mind when entering the dungeon. Many students from top-tier high schools had assembled for this exam, making the competition almost impossibly fierce. Li Liang, who had been brimming with confidence, was already drenched in sweat. "Chen Lin, are you really still coming? Better give up now and save yourself the embarrassment." The one speaking was named Ye Zhao. Standing beside him was Liu Ruoyan, dressed in a mage's outfit, her figure looking attractive and impressive. The three of them were clearly on the same team. I thought it better to ignore them. As the bell rang, 4 bronze gates opened simultaneously. Through the narrow cracks between them, cold, eerie waves of wind began escaping. Every student didn't waste a moment. They immediately began checking information about the dungeon section assigned to them. "Oh no, Second High got the Burial Bone Forest. That's one of the dungeons with the highest fail rate. All the dungeons are about the same difficulty. What's there to complain about? You guys from Third High got the easy one, so you've got nothing to say." Hearing this, Liu immediately reminded the students standing behind him. "The Burial Bone Forest terrain is very complex. The trees and bushes are extremely dense. You'll have to be very careful of ambush attacks from monsters. Always keep an eye on everything around you." After this, Lu Wen pulled out something that looked like a watch. "This is a recorder made by machinists. It will transmit the points you earn inside the dungeon to the outside." Almost immediately, another bell rang, signaling the official start of the exam. A girl wearing white armor with long icy blue hair and delicate features was the first to step into the dungeon. "That's Su Lingzhu from our Third High. She's decided to enter alone." The more people in a team, the lower the score multiplier. Those with real ability naturally go solo. The countless spectators seated around the square erupted with excitement, talking among themselves. With a thought, I established a connection with the dungeon. A flash of white light enveloped me alone. I had also decided to enter solo. After everyone entered, a level 20 middle-aged man raised his hand. 4 water screens appeared, showing live images from inside the dungeon. At that same moment, a flash of white light burst forth. A student from Second High had voluntarily chosen to exit the dungeon. The teachers from Second High School looked at each other, then one by one quietly lowered their heads, knowing many spectators were watching them. Sadness clouded Li Mingji's face. He silently stared at the water screen. The image gradually changed, showing a lone young man surveying his surroundings as he moved through the dense forest. Surprise appeared on Li Mingji's face. "Solo entry?" he then asked. "Did we have a student of this caliber come to Second High at yesterday's class change ceremony?" Lu didn't know how to respond to these words. He knew full well that I was just an ordinary summoner. Inside the dungeon, after a moment of disorientation, I immediately became alert and swept my eyes in all directions. Suddenly, there was a sound of something falling from above. Without any hesitation, my left hand rose, and a staff over 1 meter long appeared in the air. A deep green snake as thick as a bucket suddenly struck down from above. Its head widened as it opened, revealing multiple rows of dense, terrifying teeth. I gripped the staff tightly, and from its other end a streak of white light flashed. In an instant, it pierced through the deep green snake's body. The snake, its body cut in two, fell to the ground like a severed kite. "You have successfully killed a venomous fang serpent. Experience points gained, 5. Right then, a notification flashed on the device on my wrist. 15 points added to score. Everyone watching outside was completely stunned. Isn't he a summoner? That reaction speed, that agility, that's only possible with very high agility attributes. Lund was just as shocked. Though I'd performed well in live combat practice before, this was something else entirely. Truly extraordinary. After taking down the deep green serpent, I pushed deeper toward the forest's center. Right then, with a weird, spine-chilling shriek, short, stubby, ugly creatures with oily green skin started appearing one by one. I recognized them instantly, goblins. The textbooks described them as extremely territorial, reproduction-obsessed, and willing to turn cannibalistic when food ran short. By my rough count, there were around 50 or 60 of them. If that many rushed me all at once, surviving would be nearly impossible, so I called out to Hemming in my mind. In a single moment, white light burst forth and a long, echoing wolf's howl rang through the air above the forest. Hemming fixed his cold gaze on the mob of goblins charging toward him in a frenzy. His forelegs tensed, and he shot forward like a cannonball. The skull of the lead goblin shattered on impact. The goblins to the left and right screamed, raised their weapons, and struck with all their might. The sharp weapons slammed into Hemming's back with thunderous sounds, but they shattered the instant they made contact. Hemming smashed his paw down on one goblin's head, and the creature's skull split right there. Hemming completely abandoned defense and carved through them like he was walking across an empty field. Even the dim-witted goblins felt a natural fear rise within them. They stopped their attack and began retreating in blind panic. "Nobody's getting out of here now," I said. I sent Hemming forward and closed in on the nearby goblins myself, cutting them down. This slaughter caused chaos in the viewing area outside. Whoa, does our second high really have such an incredible senior? His summoned beast being this powerful is one thing, but how is he personally so strong in combat? The first and second year students in second high's viewing gallery erupted with excitement. Just over 10 minutes ago, when I first clashed with the goblins, most of them had written me off. Yet we'd wiped out the entire goblin horde, didn't leave a single one alive. Watching all this unfold, Teacher Leeming's face lit up with joy. To reach this level so quickly, at minimum B-rank talent and growth type at that, his ability is practically on par with a high-level summoned creature. Second high is finally going to produce a talented student worthy of its name. He immediately turned to the person standing behind him. "What's Chenlin's score right now?" According to the recorder's data, his current score is 560, putting him in first place at our second high. Though third high's sling shoe is way scarier, his score is 830, far ahead of everyone else. Hearing this, Teacher Leeming and all the other teachers gasped in shock. The dungeon had barely started, not even 20 minutes in, and he already had a real shot at taking first place in the entire province. Inside the dungeon, spheres of light rose from the goblin corpses one after another and merged into my body. My level rapidly increased to level 2. My mental attributes increased moderately by 5 points, the natural limit of an ordinary class. Even if the leveling pace continued, over time this gap would only widen until it eventually became an insurmountable chasm. But I could narrow that gap by relying on Hemming's feedback. Though my score had already reached the passing threshold and admission to some academy was guaranteed, that wasn't my only goal. At this moment, Hemming was happily chewing on goblin corpses. "Hemming, let's go! The real hunt starts now." Goblins were creatures that lived in groups. Since a squad had shown up here, their nest had to be somewhere nearby. More than 10 minutes passed, but not a single monster crossed my path, which only confirmed my suspicion further. Though this was called a dungeon, it seemed more like its own unique world, a place where things inside didn't just respawn, but followed natural laws similar to the outside world. Suddenly, several bone spears were hurled down from above at high speed. Goblins emerged from every direction, screaming and shrieking as they attacked with raised weapons. My face remained calm, not scared in the slightest. My staff transformed into a sword, and in a single moment I severed a goblin's head from its body. Like a one-man army, with total focus, I cut down the weak goblins with speed and precision. After each dodge, my sword struck exactly where it needed to and took their lives. In that moment, I was like a butterfly dancing through the air, except my wings had become scythes of death. The beauty of this combat, almost artistic in nature, had the audience outside rocking with excitement. Sheer, astonished joy showed on the faces of every teacher and student from second high. His technique is completely refined, and his swordsmanship is even more impressive. Every strike lands right at the throat. If it were off by even an inch, it wouldn't be such a clean kill. By now they'd stopped watching anyone else. Every single eye was locked on me, not wavering for even a moment. Lu Wen's lips twitched. He'd never seen me wield a sword in live combat drills before. I'd hidden my abilities extremely well. "This is bad. Those are level 6 fierce goblins. There are 13 of them. Chenlin's in trouble. Wait, there are fire goblins there too, and ice goblins. Going alone to search for a goblin nest is extremely reckless." A wave of concern quietly spread among the teachers. With the arrival of these goblins, all the other goblins seemed to have found their leadership, and their attacks became far more organized. As soon as the fire goblin began chanting its spell, fist-sized fireballs formed in the air and were launched toward me. I dodged each one with multiple evasive moves. Seeing an opening, the other goblins intensified their attack. I tilted my head slightly to avoid a bone spear coming straight at me, then reached out and grabbed the goblin by the throat. I threw it directly into the path of an incoming fireball. With a sharp explosion, the fire blast completely engulfed the goblin. I kept throwing goblins like projectiles at the fire goblins, raining them down from every direction. "Whoa, you can actually do that?" Every student watching from outside was left speechless. Homeroom teacher Lu Wen was stunned too, thinking to himself, "I don't remember ever teaching an attack like that." By then I'd completely confused the fire goblins. If they cast magic, their own allies would get caught in it. If they didn't cast magic, they'd be killed. In the chaos of this clash, Hemming also slipped around to the rear and started taking them out one by one. Of the more than 100 goblins, only a few remained, and they started fleeing. But this time I didn't finish them off completely. I just casually followed the remaining goblins so I could reach their hideout directly and destroy that too. Following the fleeing goblins, I arrived at a mountain cave. Suddenly, several small green figures leaped down from atop the rocky wall. My hand gripped the sword tighter and I swung it decisively in one direction. A goblin's head and body separated and fell to the ground. The other two goblins got caught in Hemming's jaws. With a sharp crunch, Hemming swallowed them happily. Suddenly, around the tunnel's bend, countless torchlight appeared from all sides. My demeanor changed. I immediately threw myself into a full retreat. Countless ugly figures were crawling on the rocky walls. My face turned serious. I roared, "Hemming!" Hemming's body expanded in an instant at a terrifying speed. He lunged forward, colliding with the goblins swarming through the air in clusters. Goblins flew in every direction. Hemming slammed down one massive paw with force, crushing whatever was beneath it until their bodies burst into disgusting piles of blood and flesh. At that moment, an ear-splitting savage roar echoed out. A twisted monster slowly emerged. Its neck was covered in thick fur, its muscles bulged, and its size was as massive as a small building. It glared at Hemming with rage-filled eyes. My face grew even more serious. "A boss!" The troll took 2 steps forward and charged in attack. The thunderous rumbling echoing through the cave shook everything. With each of its steps, the ground trembled beneath it. Hemming showed no fear and lunged straight at it. Black light glimmered on Hemming's claws as they struck the troll first, creating 4 shallow wounds on its hide. Feeling the pain, the troll became even more violent in an instant. Both its hands, each as big as a barrel, grabbed Hemming's head and slammed it down hard. Hemming's 4 legs staggered from the blow. Blood trickled from the corners of his mouth and he let out a pained howl. Seeing Hemming getting overpowered, I immediately activated my class skill enhancement arts, boosting all base attributes by 20%. A faint white glow spread across Hemming's body. At that instant, Hemming shook the troll off and threw it to the ground, then tore off a chunk of its flesh with his teeth. The troll's eyes turned blood red as it activated its bloodlust skill. The two clashed with each other, and with every blow their ferocity grew. I kept enhancement arts running with one hand while using recovery arts with the other. The noise spread hundreds of meters in all directions. All the students who heard it were left deeply astonished. The bosses of Burial Bone Forest were at minimum level 12. Who could possibly fight a boss at a time like this? A party of 3 people who had heard the commotion arrived on the scene. They hoped they could help out and maybe earn some EXP while they were at it. But when they showed up and saw what was going down, they were all completely stunned because there was no team fighting the boss. It was just me, alone. Right then I struck the final blow with the sword gripped in my hand. The troll's health bar dropped from 1 to 0. Throughout the entire battle, none of the students standing around had the guts to intervene. Lu Liang and Lu Ruyan were among them. In just one day, this wolf had become something else entirely. That's when a group of students led by Zhao Huyang showed up. He said, "Never thought someone as capable as you would be at school. Your beast is injured though. Want us to help? We've got a priest who can heal." Before he could even finish, Zhao Huyang got kicked by the cute girl standing behind him. I looked at them with a smile and said, "No need, but thanks." After hearing me out, they started to leave. As they walked away, their eyes caught the score on my wrist, 5,320. Lu Ruyan slowly walked over. Her cheeks were slightly flushed, but Hyming's blood-red eyes stared at her from the front with cold indifference. That look sent a shiver through Lu Ruyan, like she'd fallen into an icy pit. Her legs suddenly felt weak. I didn't turn around to look at her. I was scared I might lose myself in her warmth again. Then I headed back into the cave and let Hyming continue his feast so he could make himself even stronger. When Hyming had devoured every monster inside the cave, a shell of energy formed around him. This evolution was way beyond the last one with the beast meat. I had absolutely no idea what kind of battle power he'd emerge with this time. It wasn't long before a pair of sharp claws tore through the shell of light. Hyming came out even bigger than before. His pupils had turned an even deeper shade of blue, regal and ice-cold. He gained 2 new abilities, intimidation and flame. Even his talent had leveled up. This was a transformation in every sense of the word. There was an hour left before the exam ended. I climbed onto Haiming and set out to hunt for other monsters' lairs. 10 minutes later, Haiming and I reached another boss territory, a level 15 Twisted Tree King. Outside, when Li Mingji saw me heading toward the Twisted Tree King, he kept frowning. He knew the Twisted Tree King's HP and attack were both more than double the troll's, and I was only level 4. To bridge such a massive battle gap, that kind of talent was truly rare, even on a national level. Inside the dungeon, as soon as my foot hit the muddy ground, the trees with blood-red eyes began waking up one by one. Their massive trunks started splitting open. The cracks spread until, with a horrifying sound, they separated from their roots. Branch after branch came at me like spears. I showed no fear. I moved forward, and in a single moment my sword flashed out. In the blink of an eye, 5 sword strikes came so fast, only their after-images remained. The branches fell to the ground, severed. My eyes went cold, and in 3 quick steps, I closed the distance to the nearest tree spirit. The sword plunged straight into the crack of its open mouth. A massive amount of sap started flowing out. The tree spirit's health bar emptied in an instant, and it collapsed to the ground. Seeing their companion die, the surrounding tree spirits extended their thorns and started encircling me from all sides. At that moment, Haiming let out a furious roar. He swung one claw and shredded the nearest tree spirit to pieces. Then black flames erupted from Haiming's body, completely covering him and setting the tree spirit on fire, which quickly spread to the others. The tree spirits began screaming and writhing in terror, yet no matter how frantically they struggled, the black flames wouldn't go out. The black flames were consuming their very lives. Even I was shocked seeing this. I hadn't expected Haiming's flame ability to be so devastatingly effective. Soon the tree spirits were completely turned to ash in the black inferno. The black flames retreated back into Haiming's body. For the monsters killed by these flames, Haiming didn't have to go through the whole process of eating their flesh. He could absorb their energy directly. In just a short time, both Haiming and I leveled up together. My score suddenly jumped to 7,120 points. Just then, the ground suddenly split open and countless golden branches as thick as arms burst upward. In a flash, they twisted and coiled, climbing higher. From far away came a terrifying, rage-filled shriek. Hundreds of tree spirits parted way, slowly bringing forward a giant tree king that was over 100 meters tall. I quietly took a step back. Even though all my base stats had now climbed above 50 points, charging in headfirst would probably just get me killed. I knew my limits well. Haiming, attack them, dealing with powerful enemies. That's what a summoned beast is for. A wild gleam flashed in Haiming's eyes. Black flames blazed across his entire body. He lunged in his most powerful form toward the central Twisted Tree King. The black flames consumed everything. One after another, the tree spirits cried out in pain. I waited for my chance and moved forward to finish off the remaining enemies. Watching his companions die one by one in agony, the Twisted Tree King let out a long, echoing roar. Countless golden branches surged toward Haiming from every direction. Haiming abandoned all defense and charged straight for the Twisted Tree King's main body. Black light flashed on Haiming's sharp claws as they struck the Twisted Tree King with tremendous force, tearing through its bark. The Twisted Tree King's face contorted with rage. Every branch came at Haiming simultaneously from different angles. Haiming's physical defense was strong. He stood firm. The black flames began climbing, and the Twisted Tree King panicked. It felt its own life force being slowly gnawed away. The Twisted Tree King was scared. It struggled desperately, trying to escape. But Haiming let out an earth-shattering roar. In one moment, the black flames wrapped around it like chains, binding it tight. Haiming's attacks grew even more brutal. By then, Zhao Huiyang and the other 3 people who had just arrived to help gulped nervously. Their faces were frozen in expressions of amazement. The level 15 second-tier Twisted Tree King was completely suppressed. I was pretty surprised to see them there myself. At that moment, a tremendous crash echoed as the giant creature fell. The Twisted Tree King was defeated. White light rose from my body and my level increased to 8. At the same time, the recorder added another 3,000 points. I left the remaining tree spirits for the other 4 to finish off. Mia Shanshan's mouth hung open a bit. Racking up so many points seemed way too easy. In just a few minutes, their points had shot way past the minimum requirement for a top-tier academy. Zhao Huiyang said, "I think it's all because of Chen Lin's Haiming. His intimidation alone is insane. No matter how many tree spirits we cut down, Not one of them dared to look back. By then, all the black flames had retreated back into Haiming's body. In his normal form, Haiming's height had reached 7 meters. All my base attributes had climbed above 70 points. My level had reached exactly 10. This exam trial was complete. The dungeon forcibly began teleporting everyone out. One by one, countless students were bathed in white light and returned to the vast open courtyard. Cheers erupted from all around. The 7-meter-tall Haiming was crouched right beside me, steady and incredibly imposing. He'd really done it. Secured first place. Li Mingji and the other teachers had turned red with excitement. Absolutely terrifying. 3 different talents in total, and he himself is incredibly powerful. For a summoner to rack up this many kills, nobody's ever done that before. Duwen, you've got an amazing student. Come on, let's go. We're going to welcome Chen Lin right now. Li Mingji, barely keeping himself under control, grabbed the others and dragged them along. At the edge of the courtyard, Liu Ruyan stood with a pale face. She'd been kicked out an hour earlier and hadn't even qualified for a high-tier academy. In her mind, this was all my fault. My summoned beast clearly wasn't weak. Yet I never told her. If I had told her, she would have never teamed up with Lu Liang. Thinking this, a venomous gleam came into Lu Ruyan's eyes. On the other side of the courtyard, Su Lingshu was surrounded by teachers and the principal from Third High. The teachers and principal were congratulating each other. Second High is really lucky to have such a talented student. It's true, it's true. Su Lingshu, don't be discouraged. Your score of 19,500 is already extraordinary. Su Lingshu smiled and said she was fine. Then with some curiosity, she turned her gaze towards Second High's direction. Her face was thoughtful. Just then the provincial rankings came in. It was no surprise that I topped them. Haiming really was different. His growth was exceptional, and with each evolution his battle power became even more terrifying. By then I'd started looking forward to my next summon beast. When I got home I shared this good news with my little sister and mom. The prize money of 10 lakh rupees for securing first place in the province had also been deposited into my account. From now on, Mom and my sister wouldn't have to live so frugally anymore. After that, I returned to my room to prepare for my first transcendence. For the first transcendence, it was necessary to clear a randomly matched transcendence dungeon. Looking at the panel, I pressed the button without any hesitation, and in an instant, I vanished from the room. Coordinate ID 80,694. This is a world filled with wounds, on the brink of complete collapse. The last spark of humanity is about to be extinguished. Will you bring salvation or destruction? Optional Mission 1. Eliminate 1,000 disaster beasts. Protect the survivors to the best of your ability. Optional Mission 2. Assist the disaster matriarch in consuming everything so she can evolve. Participants, 10 time limit, 24 hours, cannot voluntarily return to Blue Star without any warning. I suddenly appeared among the ruins. I raised my eyebrows slightly and chose Mission 1 without delay. You say the disaster matriarch consumes everything, but do you know what Haiming really is? At that moment, a figure crashed violently through the glass door beside me. Among the rain of shattered glass, a little girl fell to the ground. A crawling disaster beast, its body soaked in blood, its skin flayed, lunged out from the dark interior of the shop. Then it pounced toward the girl. The girl was trying to reach for a long knife lying nearby, but she fell one step short. Fear of death overwhelmed her. Instinctively, she raised both hands to protect herself. In that instant, a flash of swordlight cut through the air. The disaster beast's head separated from its body, and losing its balance, it collapsed to the ground. I looked at the girl, who was still frozen in shock, and said, "Hello, my name is Chen Lin." "I'm Lu Yu," she replied. I was about to ask her about this world when suddenly a sharp sound came from the distance. "Something's wrong, everyone get back!" Lu Yu's expression immediately changed. She grabbed my hand to pull me away. "Move or else—" She didn't finish her sentence. In the distance, a car came hurtling through the air at high speed. I yanked hard, throwing Lu Yu behind me. I raised my staff horizontally and braced myself for impact. The tremendous force of the collision sent me sliding more than 10 meters before I finally stopped. Lu Yu's face turned pale with fear. Ignoring her pain, she ran toward me. "Are you okay?" I controlled the energy surging through my body and shook my head. Then I looked ahead to see what stood before us, a disaster monster standing on 2 legs, its entire body covered in sharp, terrifying spikes. "That's a blade demon, we can't escape," Lu Yu said, her gaze turning serious. Her fingers involuntarily tightened around her knife handle. The blade demon was rapidly closing in. In the next moment, the ground beneath my feet suddenly gave way. Before Lu Yu could react, a figure shot past her. I drew my sword and charged forward to face it head-on. Steel clashed against the blade demon's sharp arms, producing a sharp clang. The blade demon shrieked and swung its other bladed arm toward my head. I pushed it back forcefully. Then I shouted to Lu Yu, give me your knife! Without a moment's hesitation, Lu Yu grabbed the knife's handle and threw it toward me. A fierce killing intent filled my eyes. The blade demon seemed to sense my challenge and immediately lunged. Both its bladed arms began spinning rapidly in a frenzy. I didn't panic at all. A knife in one hand, a sword in the other. In just a few seconds, dozens of strikes were exchanged from both sides, so fast that only their shadows remained visible. After more than 1,000 strikes and counterstrikes, I spotted an opening in its defense. I tilted my head slightly to avoid a deadly blow. Then my left hand swung the long knife upward. Its sharp edge cleanly severed the blade demon's arm. Before it could react, the sword plunged straight into its heart, piercing through its tough hide and emerging on the other side. Lu Yu approached, rubbing her still aching hand, and said, "You're not from this world." I gave a slight smile and said casually, "Can you tell me about this world?" "It's all because of the miasma. The miasma has been going on for a whole month now. More and more people have broken under this torment, lost their mental balance, and eventually turned into bloodthirsty monsters. Now the miasma has changed again. Even swords, mountains, and rivers are becoming corrupted and distorted. Humanity doesn't know how to survive anymore." After hearing all this, I got a rough picture of this world. Just then, more than a dozen people appeared at the street corner, all with expressions of panic on their faces. The tall woman standing at the front called out, "Xiaoyu, what are you still doing here? Run!" Even before she finished speaking, the ground began to tremble slightly, as if a horde was surging toward them. Above in the sky, a cloud of fierce energy in deep red began to gather. Countless disaster creatures appeared on the rooftops of tall buildings, their bloodshot eyes fixed on all the people below. In that moment, the red energy took the form of a wall that began to encircle everyone, slowly closing in. Everyone swallowed nervously. "Xiaoyu, no matter what happens, stay close to me." After saying this, Luo looked at me as if I were from some other survivor group. I paid no attention to this. I walked forward calmly. "Hey, wait, what are you doing? We're surrounded on all sides right now. This isn't the time for someone to play hero." I smiled and said, No, actually, they're the ones surrounded by me. So many disaster creatures. If I kill them all, my evaluation rating will shoot straight up." "Haiming!" With a flash of white light, the 7-meter-tall Haiming appeared in an instant. A roar shook the sky. Haiming's pupils swept coldly over the crowd of disaster creatures before him. Then he transformed into his giant form. His body exploded outward, expanding to 28 meters, taller than some of the surrounding buildings. Haiming pushed off powerfully with all 4 legs. The ground immediately shattered, and cracks spread in every direction as Haiming launched himself like a missile into the horde of disaster creatures. Every disaster creature caught in the scorching, blazing heat died screaming within seconds. All the people watching from behind were completely stunned. Suddenly, about a dozen disaster creatures launched a direct attack on me. "Watch out!" Luoluo's voice rang out. She instinctively moved forward to help me, but in the next moment she stopped right there. I didn't retreat but advanced. With a knife in one hand and a sword in the other, I cut down the incoming disaster creatures as if chopping vegetables. In a moment, they were all slaughtered. Luoluo's mouth hung open. She thought to herself, "There's no sign of the miasma's corrupting influence on him at all. He should have been weakened." Suddenly a possibility came to her mind. 6 months ago, when she was searching for supplies, she had seen such people who weren't affected by the corruption but were just as powerful. Those people had destroyed the hidden base of survivors, exposing them to disaster creatures and getting them killed. When they saw survivors trying to escape, they even broke their legs to stop them. "Trash like you think you can come with me?" What a joke. That statement was something Luoluo would never forget. Sensing what Luoluo was thinking, Lu Yu immediately intervened. "Chen Lin is different from those people. He's saved me twice." Luoluo took a deep breath slowly. A glimpse of old hatred flickered in her eyes. "Whatever the case, keep your distance from him. Right now, he's drawing the attention of most disaster creatures. Let's take advantage of this opportunity and get out of here." But just as they approached, suddenly, without any warning, lightning struck down. "Passing through this area is forbidden." A blonde-haired young man holding a book emerged from a tall building. As he began chanting his spell, lightning orbs began forming in the air. In that moment, my demeanor immediately changed. I swung the long knife to one side. Suddenly, a dagger crashed into the flat side of the blade without any warning. A woman with delicate and beautiful bone structure slowly appeared before me. Without any hesitation, I swung my sword at her slender waist. But the woman vanished from that spot and reappeared dozens of meters away without saying a word. I pushed off from the ground and lunged straight toward her. Seeing this, the woman immediately called out, "Are you going to do something or not?" As the words left her lips, flames erupted from a nearby building. Two figures clashed, sending sparks flying in all directions. "Are you really a summoner?" said the giant man, engulfed in flames with disbelief. The scorching flames flared toward me. My expression remained cold. I thrust the sword into him and pushed him back. 4 more people emerged from different directions. Mutual conflict among fighters in Transcendence dungeons is prohibited. Violations result in immediate action. However, factional dungeons are an exception. Why would anyone choose Mission 1? Weren't you taught how to choose objectives in dungeons to survive? It's clear that the Disaster Beast faction has the upper hand. A smart person knows which side to choose. As the 6 of them looked at me like trapped prey, I said, "Have you heard? The best hunters often come disguised as prey." "Did you think I called you here without a plan? You've all talked enough. Now I invite you to your end. Let's begin." A slow smile spread across my face. The table is set and every dish has been served. Now it's time for Hemming's feast. A terrifying roar echoed all around. Black flames stretching hundreds of meters converged toward the massive black wolf, and in a single moment its size grew by another 8 meters, even more terrifying and imposing than before. In that instant, everyone felt a deep, bone-chilling terror rising from the depths of their souls. When they saw the giant black wolf charging toward them, a cold wave of dread ran through all 4 people from the soles of their feet to the crowns of their heads. Their minds were nearly crushed under the weight of fear. As Hemming's claws came swooping down, 3 of them forcibly suppressed their primal instinct and scattered in all directions in an instant. The last unlucky person couldn't even scream before the giant black wolf tore him apart. Cold sweat broke out on the faces of the remaining survivors at the sight. They had thought that just stopping the summoned beast would be enough, but when the summoner himself had combat abilities matching theirs, it was already unbelievable, and now they were in this situation. Besides, the summoned creature was not only incredibly physically powerful and aggressive, but it also had the ability to control crowds. Stopping it was one thing. If they weren't completely finished within 3 minutes, it would be nothing short of a miracle. Lunging toward the nearest target, the golden-haired young man gritted his teeth and quickly began chanting magical spells. A fierce lightning storm gathered in a moment, transforming into chains half a meter thick that began wrapping around the giant black wolf's 4 legs and neck. "Bring it down now, I can only hold it for 10 seconds. Before he could finish speaking, the giant black wolf twisted its right paw and shattered the lightning chains into pieces. "This is impossible. This is my first-class talent ability," the golden-haired youth said, staring in disbelief. Due to the power-enhancing magic I had cast, Hemming's strength had increased even further. Seeing this, everyone abandoned all caution. Each one unleashed their hidden trump cards. The delicate woman transformed into multiple shadows and lunged at me from every direction. Then suddenly, a shower of ice shards began raining down from above her head, forcing her to retreat step by step. A girl with long, ice-colored hair advanced with measured grace. With each step she took, frost spread across the ground where she stood. Whatever disaster creatures came near turned into ice statues without exception. "I'll hold her off," she said. The giant man surged forward in a wave of burning fire. The other 3 attacked together, intending to finish me off in one strike, but then a resonating roar rang out. "Hey, small fry, look at me!" In a single moment, all 3 turned their heads, and their eyes fixed on the burly figure standing with his shield raised. Then, behind the 3 who had lost themselves in their rage, the giant black wolf appeared. In the next instant, with one swipe of its claws, all 3 were torn into a dozen pieces. Then Hemming turned around. Its paw struck a nearby building. A storm of debris and stones spread through the air, tearing the delicate woman's clothes and riddling her skin. In the blink of an eye, Hemming closed the distance and raised its paw to attack. Black flames engulfed its entire body. On the other side, a gust of icy wind burst forth. Every building and creature in its path turned to ice. The burly man stood frozen solid in place, and thus of the 7 who came, only one remained, all deadly gazes fixed on the golden-haired youth. In an instant, the color drained from his face. He unleashed one final strike of falling lightning, then turned and fled. I weaved through each thunderclap, then swung my long blade. The golden-haired youth was separated from his arms and the rest of his body. I turned and asked, "Do you know anything about the disaster matriarch?" Luyu said, "It's an entity that emerged from countless disaster creatures, reborn with its own consciousness. Are you going to kill it?" I nodded and said, "I think only by killing it can the evaluation score reach its maximum, and it's the only thing that can give this world even a bit of redemption." At that moment, Sulingshu stepped forward. "We meet again, Chenlian." Before I could say anything, the burly man exclaimed in surprise, "You're that provincial champion. That's why you're so powerful." After talking for a while, the 3 of us became more comfortable with each other. I learned that the burly man's name was Luok Xuan, and I told them both about my plan to kill the disaster matriarch. Neither of them hesitated for even a moment and immediately agreed. The 3 of us immediately set out toward the city center. It wasn't long before we reached a large bridge. Suddenly, one after another, the red glowing eyes of disaster monsters lit up and they rushed toward us in a frenzy, forming a swarm. Hemming immediately activated Intimidate and charged straight into the crowd of disaster monsters, blocking the entire path. Black flames exploded. My face grew serious. "The disaster matriarch has seen us." Sulingsu's eyes gleamed with an icy blue light, like an indifferent goddess. In a single moment, several sharp, piercing ice shards appeared above her head. With a slight shift of Sulingsu's attention, all the ice shards shot like arrows toward the crowd of disaster monsters surrounding us from behind. Countless disaster monsters were pierced through. They began falling in rows like grain stalks being harvested in a field. But just as quickly, even more monsters kept coming relentlessly from every direction throughout the city. Every single disaster monster in the entire city was surging toward us. The pressure continued to mount. I could even feel it weighing on me. There were tens of millions, perhaps even more, disaster monsters throughout the city. Even if we gave it our all, killing them all would be impossible. So I shouted with all my strength, "Strike at the head first! Hemming, go straight for the disaster queen." At my command, Hemming turned and ran straight toward the bridge. From the other side, a dangerous presence could be felt, the disaster queen. As soon as Hemming reached the other end of the bridge, a deep red tentacle dozens of meters long suddenly appeared. The tentacle struck Hemming's body hard and sent him flying through the air. Building after building collapsed one after another from Hemming's impact. Finally, he came to a stop more than 20 meters away. Hemming roared, blowing away a cloud of dust and debris, then rose from the collapsed concrete and rubble. His cold pupils were fixed with unwavering eyes on the disaster queen, a giant eye more than 60 meters across, with each of its countless pupils focused on Hemming. Hemming's black flames blazed with terrible intensity as he launched his attack, his body lunging forward. As Hemming ran with full force, every building in his path trembled and swayed. The countless pupils of the giant eye contracted simultaneously. 15 deep red vines lunged at Hemming from every direction. Facing the incoming vines, Hemming dodged as much as he could. For those he couldn't avoid, black light flashed in his claws, and he faced them head-on. With each strike, the sound of metal scraping echoed. Suddenly, Hemming was struck forcefully by a deep red vine and thrown far away. The distance he had worked so hard to close increased again. Previously, Hemming had relied on the tremendous physical strength and defense of his giant form to get close and dominate in direct combat. But now, against the eye's vines, he had no way to close the distance. Hemming roared challengingly. The black flames blazed without restraint. Scorching heat exploded in a moment, spreading in every direction. Hemming shot out from his body at a terrifying speed. The black energy within him was burning at a destructive rate. He had decided to make one last desperate gamble. On my end, I grew serious. Through my spiritual connection with Hemming, I felt his life force diminishing. "End it!" Sulingsu's eyes opened with an icy blue light. All sounds ceased. Complete silence fell. Every bit of moisture in the air vanished in an instant. Countless disaster creatures turned to ice in the blink of an eye. Ice fragments flew in every direction. Seizing this opportunity, I made my decision without any hesitation. Reach the disaster matriarch now. The only way to give Hemming a chance was to let him evolve. It wasn't long before we reached the city center. From somewhere ahead came a sky-piercing roar. We ran. In just moments, I saw Hemming. He was badly wounded and on the verge of collapse, but his claws were still dug into the ground, unmoved. No matter how many times the deep red writhing vines struck him, Hemming refused to retreat. Inch by inch, with complete determination, he moved forward. Seeing this, I ran straight toward Hemming and shouted, "Hemming, devour them all!" At that moment, I immediately used the healing art and enhancement art. A pale white light spread across Hemming's body. Hemming's pupils trembled. He suddenly roared so powerfully that the deep red vines recoiled. Then he immediately leaped into the crowd of disaster creatures. Black flames bloomed like lotus flowers and spread instantly. Eyeball sensed the problem and ordered all disaster creatures to retreat from the area. But it was already too late. Wave after wave of black flames filled with devouring energy surged into Hemming's body. Without hesitation, I pressed the button on the panel. Begin evolution. A terrifying black power erupted from within Hemming's body and exploded outward, forming a pillar of black light that shot toward the sky. Hemming's size burst beyond 100 meters in a single moment. Congratulations, your summoned creature Hemming has acquired the swiftness skill. Congratulations, your summoned creature Hemming has awakened a new talent, indestructible body. All attributes have increased by 60 points. I breathed a sigh of relief. Another tremendous overall upgrade. Hemming's pupils locked onto the giant eyeball. Every part of Hemming seemed reborn. His tough wolf-like fur radiated a faint golden aura, emanating a divine and commanding presence. The eyeball trembled violently. It was so terrified by the all-consuming devouring aura that it couldn't even move. Then in rage, it thought that it too could evolve by devouring. It would become the most powerful. The massive red vines struck together and their impact echoed through the air. Hemming stood like a mountain, completely unmoved, didn't move at all. All 15 deep red vines struck his body hard. Hemming's golden aura trembled. Then the black flames, now combined with the power of greed and vastness, erupted. A shadow of a gigantic beast 400 meters tall made of black flames appeared above. Everything within 1 kilometer and in every direction turned into a sea of black fire. Hemming charged straight at the eyeball. Black flame claws condensed and struck downward. Many of the eyeball's countless pupils went dark simultaneously. It let out a scream of pain. Its vines continued to strike Hemming's body frantically, but couldn't damage him anywhere. The eyeball roared and began to absorb the surrounding toxic mist, rapidly assimilating it into itself. In a single moment, its size grew considerably larger. Countless sharp thorns began to grow on the deep red vines. Both sides continued attacking each other without pause. Each strike shook the earth. One roar after another tore through the sky. Hours passed. Only Hemming remained standing on the ruins. All of the eyeball's countless pupils had gone dark. Its entire body was slowly devoured by the black flames. Not even anything remained. Suling, Shiv, and I all smiled. The evaluation score we would receive for slaying the disaster matriarch and thousands of disaster creatures would undoubtedly be extraordinarily high. The next morning, a notification bell rang and all 3 of us vanished from where we stood. Time has expired. Final performance evaluation now in process. Total confirmed kills 8,560 disaster creatures. The disaster matriarch has been successfully eliminated. Congratulations, your rating is excellent. Class has been promoted to Summoner Swordsman, a unique class born from your actions. Congratulations, you have mastered a new class skill, Phantom Blade Convergence. Skill effect, a sword that exists between the real and intangible. Ignores all physical defenses of the target. Deals mental damage once. Looking at the panel, I was genuinely amazed. This bypasses physical defense completely to directly damage the target's mind. As long as the opponent has no means of mental protection, they can be killed in a single strike. This skill was truly terrifying. In an instant, the ornate sword appeared in my hand. The phantom blade formed and my energy was depleted. I shook my head and put the sword away in my mind. This skill could only be used as a last resort. I smiled quietly and opened my phone. After accepting friend requests from Lucian and Suling Shui, a message from Lu came. Top-tier academy recruitment mentors are arriving today at 2 p.m. Come to school. I thought about it. There was no other urgent business, so I immediately got up and headed there. At second high, Lu Wan was waiting at the school gate. As soon as he saw me, he came straight over. You finally made it. This time all 5 top-tier academies sent recruitment mentors to second high. This has never happened before. I went to the office with Lu. He opened a drawer and pulled out a coiled dragon-shaped ring. Inside this is the city government's reward. It contains the equipment and skill books you'll need. My eyes lit up. These were exactly what I needed right now. The sword staff, which was a common grade equipment, had endured many high-intensity battles and had broken. I took the ring and focused my attention inside it. Two pieces of information immediately appeared. First, the celestial pivot sword staff. In sword form, blood receives a special boost. Nothing can withstand it. In sword form, it also receives Wisdom Halo, which continuously restores spiritual energy with a 50% increase. Second, the skill book Point Blank can instantly cover distances within 100 meters in a single step. Looking at the equipment and skill books, I was completely satisfied. Around 2 p.m., a black sedan stopped in front of Second High. 5 men and women got out. Leming Ji stepped forward with a serious face, not caring about formalities. People qualified to be mentors at top-tier academies are undoubtedly 5th rank class holders. Even a mayor respects them. They were led to the reception room. Ji-Fei sat down casually in her seat and asked carelessly, "Where is Chen Lin?" A moment later, the door opened. Lu and I walked in. Ji-Fei examined me carefully from head to toe. "Not bad. Looking at your appearance, you should be at my Yan Academy." Fenqi, sitting nearby, immediately frowned with displeasure. "Rumors are one thing, but does Yan Academy really choose students based on looks?" Then she turned to me and invited me. "Chen Lin, choose my Qingtian Academy. As an admission gift, any 3 resources you want will be yours." "Just 3? That's like giving charity to a beggar. I think you're the one disrespecting the champion's ability. Chen Lin, don't go there and don't let yourself be treated that way." Liming Ji and Lu both watched this scene with completely expressionless faces. The atmosphere became tense. As soon as one tried to recruit, the other 4 immediately united against them. The situation rapidly descended into chaos. Ji-Fei took a deep breath and suddenly looked directly at me. "You've completed your first transcendence. I believe you haven't started summoning yet. Come to Yunake Academy. I'll personally petition the higher-ups to provide all the materials you need for summoning. Your Black Wolf has a growth-type talent. Just name whatever resources it needs. My daughter is also included." Hearing these words, the other 4 fell silent. Even by their standards, these terms were extraordinarily generous. This year, there were at least 10 candidates whose scores exceeded 20,000. Spending so many resources on one person here would leave very few resources to compete for others later. It wasn't worth it, so the 4 quietly backed down. I shook my head and said, "Everything else is fine, but it would be commendable not to involve your daughter in this." Ji-Fei's eyebrows relaxed and a hint of satisfaction appeared on her face. She said, "If you prefer someone more mature, I'm also available." I opened my mouth to clarify, but the words stopped before coming out. In the end, I chose Yunake Academy. The reason wasn't that Ji-Fei was particularly attractive, but mainly because she offered the most. Soon the enrollment day arrived. Yunake Academy was where the nation's most outstanding students gathered. I randomly chose a dorm room and moved in. The room was fully equipped with all kinds of furniture and everyday necessities. Just then, a sharp vibration came from the special device. A message arrived. "Your materials have been approved and arranged. If you need anything else, let me know. I'll get it approved quickly." After sending the message, Ji-Fei leaned back in her chair. Beside her, Jiang Weiyu said, "With our resources, we could have recruited 4 provincial champions. What we've given Chen Lin far exceeds his real value at this stage. He's absolutely not worth this level of investment right now." Ji-Fei just smiled and said to her, "The new student exam starts tomorrow. We'll see then." I spread out the summoning materials on the floor. I extended one hand and spread it in the air. As soon as the summoning technique activated, white light filled the entire room. A few minutes later, what appeared before me was a silver butterfly about 60 centimeters in size, with an entire body of brilliant silver and 2 pairs of red wings. Could this also be weak and useless? I quietly straightened the corner of my lips and opened its stat panel. Summoned creature, silver butterfly. Level 10, Strength 1, Constitution 1, Agility 1, Magic 1. This is even weaker than Heiming at the start. I shook my head. It had broken every record for the weakest summoned creature ever. But it doesn't matter, I'll give you an unlimited future. The silver butterfly slowly floated toward me. I extended my finger to receive it. The evaluation began. Loyalty 100%, it would never betray me. A lifelong bond initiated. I pressed confirm. In that single instant, a sharp, searing pain tore through me from somewhere deep within, like my very soul was being ripped apart. "Congratulations! Your summoned creature has awakened the SS-Rank unique talent, 10,000 transformations. It can shift into any form and acquire corresponding abilities. In the same moment, a silver butterfly dissolved into a shimmer of light and took on my appearance. In a flat, expressionless voice it said, "Master, after gaining a basic understanding of my abilities, I've finally realized just how powerful 10,000 transformations truly is." I opened the crate. Inside, pieces of battle armor were stacked one after another. I gestured toward the silver butterfly and reached out to it mentally. It gave a slight nod, dissolved into glimmering light, and wrapped itself around my arm. In an instant, silver armor materialized and slowly encased my entire body. I felt no discomfort, no weight, as if the armor had always been a part of me. I was completely satisfied. 10,000 transformations had the ability to absorb metals, fuse with them, and exponentially increase its hardness. Without a doubt, this was a talent that could grow infinitely stronger, like a hunger that could never be satisfied. With that thought, I immediately decided to start developing the silver butterfly. I sent a message to the GE requesting metallic materials with specific elemental properties. The supplies arrived in just half an hour. A notification pinged, rare metallic minerals, each with unique properties, every single one a priceless resource. Back in my room, I instructed the silver butterfly to begin the fusion process. It didn't take long before the armor covering my body became extraordinarily hard. Even a second Transcendence class wielder would struggle to damage it. The armor's weight reached 5 tons, yet I felt nothing. But if it came crashing down on an enemy, it would be like a mountain collapsing on top of them. I walked into the common area. My 3 roommates who had heard the commotion stared at me in stunned silence. One of the guys stepped forward and said, "Hey, I'm Feng Kai, 2nd place in Qingyan province. Getting 1st place in your province with a common class talent is actually impressive," a cold-faced young man replied with a sneer. He was the 2nd-ranked Transcendence from Longhe province, with an exam score of 23,000. "You only placed 1st because your province had no real talent," he continued. "Doesn't sound like anyone worth mentioning comes from there." Feng Kai smiled slightly. "I'd say the fact that a powerful creature answered his call says something pretty special about Chen Lin." Just as the two were about to argue, a voice boomed across the entire academy. "All new cadet students, grab your weapons and equipment and report to Yanquaz immediately." Cao Yang, lounging on the couch, said, "Looks like the new student competition got moved up by half a month. The number of mutated beasts outside the city is rising, and the academy has decided to assign us to eliminate them." I felt quiet. My mind drifted back to that world of Transcendence dungeons. I never thought Blue Star would face the same kind of crisis so soon. The cold-faced young man smirked. "Perfect timing, Chen Lin. I'm about to leave you in the dust. That 1st place title rightfully belongs to me, not you." Looking at his arrogant face, I just smiled. I was going to crush all of them. At Yanquai Plaza, the new cadets began gathering one by one. The dean took a slow breath and spoke. "The top 100 ranked students will head outside the city and eliminate the rapidly growing surge of mutated beasts under the pressure of real life-and-death combat." The secretary standing behind him nodded, tablet in hand, and made the announcement, "The new student competition, originally scheduled for half a month from now, will be held immediately. You will all be entering the large-scale Dungeon Rift Canyon, with enemies ranging from levels 20 to 30. The results of this competition will determine the distribution of future resources." After the announcement, the dungeon gates slowly swung open. A wave of suffocating pressure washed across the plaza. Some students' knees buckled. Their lips trembled slightly. "Are they serious? I haven't even reached my 1st Transcendence yet. How are we supposed to handle this?" Just then, tall Luo Xuan appeared alongside a short-haired girl. He had genuinely wanted to enroll at Yun Academy. "This is my sister, Luo Ning. Say hi." Luo Ning shyly hid behind her brother, her voice barely above a whisper. I waved and invited them both along. Seeing me slow down for them, the cold-faced young man's brow furrowed. Before entering the dungeon, he said in an icy tone, "Don't embarrass yourself too badly." I didn't bother responding. Soon, all the cadets went in. A guide raised a hand and projected a map onto a water screen. The Rift Canyon stretched for hundreds of kilometers, a massive labyrinthine terrain. The moment the 3 of us stepped inside, roars thundered from ahead. Perfect. A chance to test my current strength. With a single thought, a flash of white light erupted, and the silver butterfly appeared at my side. Silver armor enveloped my entire body. I gripped the celestial pivot sword staff firmly in my right hand, then drew the silver war blade from my back and slammed my foot against the ground. In an instant, I materialized dozens of meters away, directly in front of a monster. This skill was originally meant to save my life, but I was using it to close the gap with enemies. The celestial pivot sword staff swung in a single motion, slicing through a dozen monsters like cutting tofu. Without losing any momentum, I became a blur of shadow, cutting through the entire horde. Nearly every monster was felled before they could even react. Watching from behind, Luo Xuan whooped with excitement. "Brother Ning is unreal. He doesn't even have to try and his EXP just keeps climbing." The instructors observing from outside were floored. That speed, that damage output, it was practically on par with the hidden close combat classes. Those base stats are off the charts. Even if Chen-Lin reaches peak second transcendence, his close combat power shouldn't be anywhere near this level. One instructor murmured, "Could Silver Butterfly be Chen-Lin's second summoned beast, one that can transform into a weapon? I've never even heard of that." Even the dean, for all his knowledge and experience, looked genuinely taken aback. Seeing Ji-Fei's self-satisfied expression, he said, "Right now, over a dozen people still have scores above Chen-Lin. Teaming up gives far fewer points. That's your future son-in-law you're watching. If his image takes a hit, what's in it for you?" Ji-Fei was about to respond when she caught a smack to the back of her head. Inside the dungeon, my silver armor was already drenched in blood. Every level 20 monster in the area had been cut down in a single strike. It felt like I had already reached the peak of second transcendence. At that same moment, waves of dark, negative emotions surged through my mind, pushing toward control, trying to drive me to turn the blade on myself. Seeing me go completely still, Luo Xuan panicked and called out, "Xiao Ning, pull back your domain now!" Well aware of her talent's side effects, Luo Ning flinched and quickly withdrew the domain. I smiled and reassured her. "It's fine, it didn't affect me at all." I glanced down at the recorder on my wrist. Only 120 points so far, way too slow. To gain power quickly, I had to take first place. The Silver Butterfly and Haiming both needed massive amounts of resources. With that thought, I activated my mind. In an explosion of white light, an enormous, terrifying black wolf materialized, its bone-chilling howl shaking the entire canyon. Luo Ning, seeing Haiming for the first time, stumbled back in fear and ducked behind me. I gave Haiming a single command: devour every monster in this canyon. The moment the order landed, a savage gleam lit up Haiming's eyes. He turned and charged into the depths of the canyon. It wasn't long before the recorder on my wrist began beeping non-stop as the score kept climbing. I headed down another path to hunt more monsters. Somewhere in the distance, a young woman released a deep crimson lightning dragon, unleashing it onto the monster horde below. The moment it struck, the ground shattered. Crimson lightning erupted and raged within a 100-meter radius, obliterating every monster in its path. The young woman watched the carnage with a look of pure dissatisfaction. These creatures weren't even worth her time. Her sister Luo Lan watched with a familiar, exhausted look of resignation. Then, without warning, a bone-chilling aura surged toward them, dragging scorching heat in its wake. Before she could process what was happening, she saw the battle lust blazing in Luo Hongzheng's eyes. In one fluid motion, savage crimson lightning erupted, coiling and twisting around the black spear in her hand. The moment she spotted the massive black flame wolf charging straight at her, a chill shot through her entire body just from meeting its gaze. Even so, Luo Hongjiang's delicate expression quickly twisted into something wild and untamed, and she launched herself headlong at the wolf. Seeing her sister charge forward without a moment's hesitation, Luo Lan swiftly and skillfully cast a rapid succession of strength-boosting and protective spells, something she had done countless times before. With those enhancements active, their combined combat power instantly doubled. When the two sides collided, the shockwave from the impact rippled outward in every direction. Seeing the massive black wolf emerge completely unscathed, wrapped in golden light, Luo Hongzheng's face went rigid. That strike had carried the power of a third transcendence. How had it walked away without a scratch? Haiming fixed a cold stare on the person who had attacked him without any reason, and his claws snapped forward in a single motion. Against that terrifying force, the three-layered defensive barrier shattered one after another. Luo Hongzheng's body was launched into the air. Luo Lan's face drained of color. She pressed her palms together. A sacred divine figure, dozens of meters tall, slowly materialized, the holy guardian angel descending. SS-Rank talent, angel's blessing. A golden barrier of light surged up in an instant, encasing them both. Luo Lan called out urgently, "Sis, fall back, now!" Before the words had even finished leaving her mouth, Haiming was already moving. He raised a single paw and tore through the golden barrier in one clean motion. He cast a cold glance at both of them, then walked right past without a second thought. Outside, a deep, heavy silence fell over everyone. Every instructor, including the dean, was completely speechless. Could this truly be the power of a summoner who had only changed classes just days ago? This is terrifying. That level of combat power is completely beyond the limits of second transcendence. Faced with combat ability that defied all logic, the same single phrase rose unbidden in everyone's mind, unmatched at his level. Seeing Ji's smug, self-satisfied expression, Jiang Huaya was stunned. The odds had been nearly zero, and he had actually pulled it off. Could he genuinely be a prodigy? Over the next 10 hours, Haiming slaughtered more than 10,000 monsters and took down 3 level 3 bosses. Only 1,300 points remained until his next evolution, and that was just half a day's work, though progress would only get harder from here. Luo Xuan and Luo Ning were both grinning ear to ear, experiencing for the very first time just how effortless leveling up could feel. I smiled and glanced down at the recorder. The score had already hit 34,000, not much further now. Haiming finished his sweep and returned. I cast a recovery spell on him. Soon after, the dungeon's time limit expired. White light enveloped everyone and transported us back to Yanquei Plaza. All eyes turned toward us. Many cadets returned in rough shape, none worse than the cold-faced young man who slammed his fist into the ground in humiliation. He had been sent flying by a single casual swipe from the massive black wolf and come out badly injured. At that moment, the Academy Secretary made a loud announcement. I will now announce the final point totals for all cadets. Overall, first place Chen Lin, with 34,500 points. The cold-faced young man's eyes went wide. He immediately snapped his gaze toward the holographic screen. My total score led by a massive margin. In second place was Feng Kai, with only 13,000 points. This is impossible. The cold-faced young man refused to accept it. He was absolutely convinced there had been some kind of error, and he wasn't alone. Plenty of others looked just as shocked. How could everyone else, including the other 2 top provincial champions, have ended up with scores so low? The secretary seemed to read the room. He explained, "The massive black wolf you were all facing was Chen Lin's summoned beast." The moment those words landed, every face in the crowd went completely blank with pure, stunned disbelief. From the stage, the Vice Dean's secretary announced, "The new student tournament is hereby concluded. Scholarship rewards will be distributed shortly. You are all dismissed." Back at the dormitory suite, the moment I opened the door and walked in, the cold-faced young man's expression shifted, just slightly uncomfortable. He took a quiet breath and said, "While you were out, something got delivered for you. Said it was the second batch of materials and resources. You weren't here, so I put it in your room." I paused for a moment, then smiled. "Got it, thanks." The cold-faced young man turned his head away and muttered quietly, "Don't mention it." Back in my room, I opened the large black crate. This shipment of rare metals was even larger than the first. As long as the silver butterfly kept fusing with enough metal, the armor's hardness would climb to the point where not even Haiming could break through it, and on top of that, various special properties could develop over time. By then, it wouldn't just be the defense that was unbreakable. The combat power would become something truly terrifying. I had zero intention of staying a helpless summoner with no ability to fight for myself, because that kind of weakness was way too obvious. The moment someone specifically targeted me, I could be taken out a dozen different ways without breaking a sweat. About 10 minutes later, every last piece of metal had been fully absorbed by the silver butterfly. At this point, its hardness had reached a level where even a third transcendence wielder couldn't pierce it, and its weight had climbed to 13 tons. With the mutual enhancement of power, a single punch was now enough to shatter the ground. Right at that moment, the first place reward from the new student competition arrived as well, 500 school credits. After a brief moment of thought, I spent every single credit, selecting dozens of resource items across various fruit-type categories. The moment the delivery arrived, I laid everything out and called Haiming over, feeding it all to him. It didn't take long before I felt waves of warmth spreading through me, a deep, comforting sensation flowing through my entire body. Haiming's size gradually increased as well, and within just a few minutes, he had grown to 40 meters tall. Now that I had been promoted to the Summoner Swordsman class, every level I gained awarded me an additional 5 power points. I had genuinely and completely transformed. From a frail backline player who couldn't fight on his own, into an aggressive powerhouse frontline warrior. The next morning, all four of us in the dorm were assigned to Class 1. On the way there, we ran into Luo Xuan and Luo Ning, who turned out to be in the same class. When we arrived, the room was already fairly packed. It seemed like the fact that I had single-handedly defeated everyone using just one summoned beast still hadn't fully faded from people's minds. Nothing like that had ever happened before. Just then, two strikingly beautiful twin sisters walked through the door. Luo Hongzheng and Luo Lan glanced around the room for a moment, then walked straight over and sat directly in front of me. At the same time, tall and slender Ji Fei entered the classroom. She swept her gaze across the room and said, "My name is Ji Fei, and I'm your homeroom teacher. With that said, try not to bring your problems to me unless it's absolutely necessary. Every one of you passed the entrance exam as top talent from your respective provinces. I trust you all came here for better resources." She paused, then continued, "But the foreign races have been establishing their foothold for decades now, and their advantage grows with every passing day. Soon they will launch an all-out assault to break through our defensive lines." The words sent a ripple of disbelief across every face in the room. Society was running smoothly and in perfect order. Entertainment and leisure were thriving and flourishing. The media had been reporting consistently that things were improving. There wasn't a single negative word anywhere online. Everything seemed stable and peaceful. And yet, here they were being told that disaster was right around the corner. Seeing the confusion and shock on everyone's faces, Ji Fei spoke quietly. "Have you ever wondered why you almost never see anyone in society who's made it past 5 transcendences? Even the strongest military personnel, the ones protecting entire major provinces, always stop at 4 transcendences." Everyone thought carefully about what he'd said and realized it was absolutely true. By all logic, someone who had reached the 5th transcendence, a true top-tier warrior, should be visible somewhere online or in everyday life. Their complete absence was deeply unsettling. Then, a chilling thought began to take shape in their minds. Graduates from elite academies were at least 4th transcendence or above. The majority of them had accepted deployment to the front lines without a moment's hesitation. That sacrifice was precisely what had kept the peace back home. Ji Fei continued, "News like this, the kind that could trigger widespread panic, is naturally restricted from circulation by every nation. That's why most ordinary civilians don't even know any of this is happening. It's become even more critical now because the mutant animal population is growing rapidly. If it isn't brought under control, the foreign clans will almost certainly launch a full-scale early offensive." Ji Fei looked at each cadet in the room. "We have to step up. All academies are sending their top-ranked recruits to reduce the mutant animal numbers. Anyone willing to join this operation, stand up now." The sound of chairs scraping against the floor echoed through the classroom. I stood up without a second thought. Luo Xun and Lu Ning caught my eye and immediately rose as well. A fight with mutant animals was always going to happen eventually. It had just come a little sooner than expected. Watching it all unfold, a faint smile crossed Ji Fei's lips. Half the class volunteering was far more than he'd anticipated. "All volunteers come forward. We're heading to the military base." A boy still in his seat spoke up. "Do the rest of us have to go too?" "Everyone in this class is a top recruit. All of you are going. The military will prioritize volunteers, which is why the announcement was made the way it was." Ji Fei said it without any expression. "If any of you genuinely can't bring yourself to go, there is one other option. Leave Yuhei Academy." Of the roughly 20 still hesitating, half stood up immediately. Ji Fei led everyone out of Yuhei Academy. Dozens of heavy military troop carriers were lined up outside the school gates. As the cadets loaded into the vehicles, the once buzzing Yuhei Academy was swallowed by a vast, heavy silence. Inside the troop carrier, Ji Fei picked up a folder and spoke. "Our destination is Hangdawan Military Base, located 900 kilometers outside Zhongtian City. Beyond it lies the Bailin Mountain Range, a region spanning thousands of square kilometers. Aerial surveys have confirmed tens of thousands of mutant animals ranging from level 10 to 30 on the outer perimeter alone. Deeper inside, you'll be facing level 40 to 50 mutant animals. Your focus is solely on clearing the outer perimeter. The front lines have been holding back every wave of attacks using technical defense systems, but for reasons not yet fully understood, the mutant animal assaults have grown significantly more aggressive recently. That's why the front lines don't have the capacity to handle this clearing operation themselves." 8 to 9 hours later, the troop carriers came to a stop. As the heavy doors swung open on both sides, Several military units stood in a straight line, dressed in black tactical gear, as if they'd known exactly when we'd arrive. Every soldier saluted in unison. Something stirred in everyone's chest, and the casual, easygoing attitude quietly disappeared. Ji Fei stepped forward. "Everyone follow me to the mission registration point." Eyes darted in every direction as we walked. The military base was enormous. Artillery platforms stood at fixed intervals around the perimeter, fortified with dense, layered defenses. It didn't take long before everyone reached the mission registration point. Female soldiers distributed black smart wristbands to all cadets. They looked similar to the recorders used during exams, but these had additional mission and mapping features. There was also an emergency signal icon. Pressing it would instantly alert the base, which would then dispatch a rescue team. Nearby personnel would also receive the alert and respond immediately. "Welcome. Every cadet is required to complete at least one mission per day. You have not completed today's quota. Please proceed to the registration center and select a mission." I scanned the screen, taking in the countless missions listed. Better to play it safe. I'll grab a few straightforward third transcendence missions. Suddenly I felt eyes on me from behind. I turned around immediately. Luo Xun was walking toward me, and both he and Lu Ning were giving me the most pitiful, helpless looks imaginable. At their capability level, heading out into the forest on their own would be a constant, brutal struggle. I smiled. "Come on, let's go together. I told you I'd handle it for you." Both of them nodded repeatedly. The gratitude in their eyes said everything. Seeing that, Feng Qia, who had been just about to invite Lu Ning himself, stopped dead in his tracks. He felt a faint, irritating sting in his jaw. The twins were one thing, but how had Lu Ning ended up going with him too? "The forest is dangerous. Anything can happen out there. Jiangfeng, come with us. We'll watch each other's backs." Li Jiangfeng shot Feng Qia a sharp, irritated look. "Get lost. Go find someone else." Li Jiangfeng rolled his eyes, selected his mission, and headed out with a few girls from the same class. Feng Qia turned to Cao Yang. "Cao Yang, how about we—" Cao Yang cut him off. "You're from the hidden combat class. For the love of God, stop being such a coward. Find some reliable people yourself and form a team. If things go sideways, just send a distress signal. If we happen to be nearby, we'll come collect whatever's left of you." It wasn't long before I had selected 3 missions. Eliminate the level 33 Berserk Black Ape, 200 kilometers out, the level 36 Twin Fang Giant Tiger, and the level 39 Blood Spirit Colossal Crocodile. The location of each mutant animal had been obtained through miniature drones modified with array mages using observation eyes. Under normal circumstances, mutant animals had a powerful sense of territoriality and rarely strayed far from their own turf. Every military base had made full preparations for this clearing operation so that cadets could engage and eliminate mutant animals with confidence and relative safety. With everyone's safety in mind, all personnel heading out on missions could be issued 3 high-explosive grenades and a handgun loaded with 7 armor-piercing rounds. These were sufficient to wound almost any mutant animal at level 20 or below. I had absolutely no confidence in my shooting, so I just took the 3 high-explosive grenades and nothing else. My fists were more powerful than armor-piercing rounds at this point anyway. And with that, we set out. It wasn't long before we entered the Balin mountain range. I immediately activated the silver butterfly and formed my armor. Then the smart wristband spoke. "Would you like to activate the torch?" I said yes immediately. An instant later, a sharp white light illuminated roughly 10 meters in every direction around us. Inside the command center, every face turned serious. Through a nearby miniature drone, they immediately spotted that we were heading in the wrong direction. If we kept going, we'd walk straight into territory belonging to level 30 and above mutant animals. Why weren't we stopping? A middle-aged man in a major general's uniform spoke in a low, firm voice. Find out which missions they accepted. The woman managing the screens heard him and quickly worked the controls. Then, with visible shock, she said, "Level 33, Berserk Black Ape Elimination. Level 36, Twin Fang Giant Tiger. Level 39, Blood Spirit Colossal Crocodile. These are all 3rd Transcendence requirement missions. That last one is nearly on par with a 4th Transcendence in difficulty. Is this guy out of his mind?" Yang Xiao rubbed his temple. "He's Yuhei Academy's new student this year. He's only level 16. Where does he get the nerve to take on missions 2 full Transcendences above him? He's walking straight toward his own grave. But the kind of genius who stands firm in the face of danger without flinching, that almost never goes against humanity's interests, no matter what." He issued the order without hesitation. Station 4 armed helicopters nearby. The moment they're in danger, launch a rescue operation immediately. Yang Xiao let out a long breath. Compared to the other bases, Hangduan might end up falling behind. Just then, the smart wristband sent out a notification. Warning, you have entered the territory of the Berserk Black Ape. The very next second after that announcement, a massive python burst out of the undergrowth without any warning. Its thick, powerful body stretched dozens of meters in length. It lunged straight at me, razor-sharp fangs bared, its terrifying open jaw wide enough to swallow me whole. I spun around instantly. I grabbed the python's fangs with both hands and wrenched them with everything I had. The fangs snapped clean in two. As it reeled its head back in pain and blood sprayed in every direction, I didn't give it a single moment to recover. The ground caved in beneath my feet, and in an instant, I was right in front of it. One punch landed squarely on its spine and shattered it completely. The python let out a horrifying shriek. Its cold, lifeless eyes flooded with fear. It immediately tried to flee. I grabbed it from behind, locked my arms around it, and slowly dragged it back. The python thrashed in a panic, its wild flailing shaking the ground beneath us, but nothing it did made any difference. My fist came down directly on its head. The python's skull exploded in a burst of blood and flesh, caving in and splitting apart. I grabbed its lower jaw with both hands and tore it apart with brute force. The sheer brutality of the scene left both Luo Shun and Lu Ning trembling. Inside the command center, where everyone had watched it happen, a heavy silence fell. Every mouth hung open in disbelief. That was complete insanity. He's only level 16 and he just went toe-to-toe with a level 29 giant python using nothing but his bare body. He's a monster. Yang Xiao quietly lowered his head and read through the document in his hands, over and over again. It clearly showed his class designation, Summoner. Then a roar exploded across the screen and filled the room, and every face in the command center went serious at the same time. A monkey, at least 50 meters tall, muscles bulging and rippling, leaped down from the mountainside. It had apparently been woken up by the noise of the fight, and now it was charging at us in a full rage. The female officer's face went pale. This is really bad. That's the Berserk Black Ape. How did it reach level 34? Every 10 levels, a mutant animal transforms completely. That thing could kill the giant python in just a few punches. Yang Xiao nodded slowly. He had the same sinking feeling. Across all of humanity, very few people can bridge a combat gap that wide. His hand was already on the radio. The moment things went south, he was ready to dispatch all 4 armed helicopters immediately. I didn't even have time to collect any loot. A massive, bloodied black shadow came crashing down from above. The black ape brought both palms together into one enormous fist and hammered downward. Without flinching, I drew my battle sword from my back and slashed in a single motion. The blade caught the ape's fist, impossibly tough and armored with thick hide, dead on. A shockwave rippled outward in every direction, but I was completely unharmed. The silver butterfly had absorbed every last bit of the impact. The black ape roared again. Its body suddenly swelled to several times its original size, shooting up to 70 meters tall. Then, like swatting a fly, it slammed its palm downward. But in that same instant, I appeared directly above the black ape's head. At point-blank range, I activated a skill that was originally designed for survival, now repurposed for rapid repositioning. A devastating strike, like a silver streak, carved into the back of the black ape's skull, opening a wound half a meter deep. Staggered by the blow, the black ape immediately spun its massive body and swung both palms in a wild frenzy, but every single strike was evaded. I closed the distance directly. The battle sword slashed the same spot repeatedly in rapid succession. The black ape immediately raised one leg and slammed it into the ground. The earth shook like an earthquake. In one terrifying instant, dust and debris erupted in every direction. By then I was already standing more than 10 meters away. It seemed like even 13 tons of force wasn't enough to deal truly serious damage to the black ape. But that was the limit of what I could do right now. With that in mind, I decided not to drag this out any longer. In an instant, a sword appeared in my hand, existing somewhere between the real and the intangible, its surface engraved with mysterious white characters that were impossible to read. I felt my spiritual energy drain in one sudden rush, and a wave of heaviness washed over my mind. First time using this. Let's see what you've got. I slowly raised my hand. In that same moment, every single hair on the black ape's body stood on end. It felt a jolt run through its head, as if some invisible, formless force had marked it for death. The black ape lunged forward immediately, desperate to end the fight before it was too late. but my hand had already come down. The phantom sword tore through the black ape's body in one swift motion. Without any warning, its massive form crashed to the ground with a thunderous impact, and the wind swept the scattered dust in every direction. Its physical body was still alive, but its mind had already broken and died. I pulled the sword back. Fortunately, the black ape's overwhelming and suffocating presence had kept the surrounding mutant animals from getting anywhere near us, and the fight had ended quickly. Watching from a distance, the armed helicopters that had been standing by slowly banked and flew away. The entire command center went completely quiet. Everyone sat staring blankly at the screen, still not fully processing what had just happened. Yang Xiao sat in silence for a moment, thinking it over. That had to be a mental attack. Abilities like that are extremely rare. What was staggering was that he had crossed an 18-level gap and killed the berserk black ape. What made it even more remarkable was that it wasn't some sudden burst of power or a last resort move. It was a sustained, stable combat state. That was the most terrifying part. Those who defeat far stronger enemies usually rely on surprise attacks, not on consistent, stable ability. There's a massive difference between the two. If his steady power could erase a 2 transcendence gap, he would be an absolute nightmare for the foreign clans. The thought made Yang Xiao's heart pound, and a surge of excitement rushed through him. Yang Xiao stepped out of the command center and went into a small plain room. He shut the door and activated one concealment layer after another. Then he carefully took out a communicator and spoke. "Brother Zhang, we've found a monster at the military base. He's extraordinarily powerful. I'm badly injured right now, and I'm afraid I can't protect him on my own." About half an hour passed before a response came through the communicator. "Tell me the truth, how powerful is he?" Yang Xiao said, "Powerful enough that even the two of us together couldn't stop him. He'd crush us both without breaking a sweat." The voice on the other end replied, "That's serious. Not even all of humanity combined could hold him back. Just wait until the foreign clans send their assassins." Yang Xiao said with a hint of helplessness, "He could flatten me with one hand. It's hard to say that in front of you, Brother Zhang." The response came back immediately. "Understood. I'm going to discuss this with the other throne-level individuals right now." At that same moment, Luo Shun stared at the black ape's enormous carcass and called out with excitement. He took down a level 34 mutant beast without any help from Hemming at all. Brother Lin is absolutely incredible. I just smiled and said nothing. Then I thought it over and summoned Hemming, who stretched out 40 meters long. I told him to consume both mutant animal carcasses. His growth value increased by 0.2 points, still a long way from the 1,200 plus he needed. After thinking for a moment, I tossed the life crystals extracted from the mutant animals I'd killed earlier into the black flames. Every single one. On average, each crystal gave at least 1 point. My eyes lit up. I'd finally found a way to rapidly grow his development value. Then I took the two of them deeper into the mountains. Half an hour later, a giant tiger more than 30 meters long with long, jagged fangs came lunging at us. But before it could get close enough to attack, Hemming's pupils locked onto it. Frozen by the terror of that gaze, the enormous tiger was completely paralyzed. The ground split open and Hemming appeared directly in front of the tiger in an instant, claws fully extended. In one devastating strike, the giant tiger was sent flying through the air. The sheer force of the impact sent it crashing through several towering trees before it finally came to a stop. 4 vicious wounds opened across the giant tiger's face, blood pouring freely. It turned to run, but in terms of raw speed, it was nowhere near Hemming's level. Within just seconds, the giant tiger was completely consumed by the black flames. The sheer violence of the scene clearly unsettled even the command center staff. Even through the screen, those eyes sent a chill running down their spines, as if death itself was only 1 heartbeat away. Yang Xiao smiled faintly. A deep sense of admiration settled over him. We pressed forward through the mountains. An hour later, we were deep inside territory belonging to mutant animals above level 30. Not a single creature came near, not with Hemming's presence radiating in every direction. Then, without warning, a colossal crocodile more than 100 meters long, its hide the deep red of fresh blood, slowly opened its eyes. A terrifying, violent presence erupted from it as it warned the intruders out of its territory. In response, Hemming bared his teeth, and a savage, ferocious aura exploded from his entire body. In the next instant, his size surged rapidly, his length stretching out to nearly 300 meters. It felt as though the crocodile had been silently put in its place. The crocodile pushed forward in fury. The earth shook with every step. Black flames blazed across every inch of Hemming's body. His claws spread wide, and a deep light rose to the surface. A ring of golden radiance slowly lifted from his skin and fur, radiating a sense of absolute, unshakable dominance. The crocodile threw open its massive jaws, row after row of razor-sharp teeth, every single one completely lethal. But when those jaws snapped shut around the golden light, they simply couldn't close. Hemming stared it down with cold, indifferent eyes. Then he raised one claw and brought it crashing down with full force. In an instant, countless blood-red scales were ripped away, leaving the raw flesh beneath torn and mangled. At the same moment, the crocodile unleashed a thunderous roar and whipped its thick, enormous tail. The tail blazed with a blood-red light that churned and swirled as it moved. The power behind it was terrifying, and as it swept toward Hemming, it dragged a violent gust of wind with it. 4 long, deep gouges carved into the ground. Hemming threw everything he had into holding his ground and barely managed to stay put. The crocodile pressed its advantage and kept attacking. Its front legs launched off the ground with tremendous force, locked onto Hemming and dragged them both sliding backward into the lake behind them. The moment they collided, water exploded into the sky. The two massive creatures clashed violently beneath the surface, churning the lake into a murky, turbulent mess. The black flames wrapped around Hemming's body didn't dim in the slightest. Instead, the water temperature around them kept rising steadily. Despite having the environmental advantage, the crocodile was being completely dominated. It activated its innate power ability and still couldn't land a single meaningful blow. Within just a few minutes, the water level of the massive lake had dropped by nearly a quarter. Then suddenly the surface burst open. A massive black wolf exploded up from beneath the lake. Its body, nearly 300 meters long, projected an overwhelming, crushing presence. Combined with the savage, violent aura coiled around it, it was enough to make everyone's legs go weak. Even though Hemming would never attack Luo Shun or Lu Ning, neither of them could hold back the sheer dread rising from within. The people watching on the screens in the command center felt the exact same way. As for the crocodile, not a single piece of it remained. Right then, the wristband spoke up. "All missions complete. You may return to the military base registration point to submit." By the time all 3 of us made it back to the base, it was 1 in the morning. I went straight to the registration point and handed the missions over to a female soldier. She looked up with disbelief. "Did you actually complete all of them?" I nodded and pulled up the recorded footage on my wristband as proof. After a long moment, the female soldier finally came back to reality. "A total of 200 contribution points. Since you worked as a team, how would you like to divide them?" I transferred the points to the other 2 according to the ratio the female soldier explained. Then I looked at Luo Shun and Lu Ning. Being with me meant they weren't contributing on their own, and they weren't getting the chance to develop themselves properly. It was time to find more suitable teammates for them. Shortly after I left, a line appeared clearly on the large screen at the registration point. UA Academy, first-year cadet, level 16 summoner, contribution points 100, rank 1,245, and it wasn't just at Hangdawan base. That same line appeared simultaneously on the screens at every base where academy groups were stationed. The moment it went up, cadets standing near the registration area started staring in disbelief. "Who is this person? They racked up 100 contribution points in a single run. They completed at least 2/3 Transcendence missions in one go. I'm a first year too, and I've only got single-digit contribution points. Same here. I only have the nerve to take first Transcendence missions. These mutant animals are so brutal that even with a level advantage, they still overwhelm me. Most second and third year students only have a few dozen contribution points. And yet this person is level 16, a first year, and managed to kill 2 mutant beasts above level 30 while crossing a full 2-rank gap." Over at Loxiang base, Feng Qi was in the middle of discussing a plan to take down a level 60 giant beast hiding in the outer perimeter. Then he suddenly spotted a name on the ranking board and froze for a moment. How is that possible? Several instructors caught the direction of his gaze. "Professor Feng Qi, do you know this cadet? A first-year student with 100 contribution points on day 1. Doesn't that seem a little too impossible?" Feng Qi said, "That's the recruit I regretted losing. That's him. At the time, Jifei made too strong an offer. Otherwise, he probably would have ended up at Bilang Academy." The instructors nodded, though one quickly pushed back. "A powerful senior student probably took him along. That would explain it." "That's true, though behavior like that really isn't appropriate. This clearing operation isn't just about controlling the mutant animal population. It's also about giving cadets the chance to develop themselves." "Exactly. Time is short. Building your own strength always has to come first. Chasing rankings by riding someone else's coattails is completely pointless. Fengqi let out a long breath. He'd had a good opinion of me before. Now he was a little disappointed. He turned to the young man standing nearby in black gear and asked with a smile, "Xiao Yunshu, mission complete?" Xiao Yunshu stepped forward. "Yes, I took down 2 level 27 mutant beasts for you, Professor Fengqi. I would have been back much earlier, but I ran into a level 33 armored lizard on the way back, and that took some real effort." Xiao Yunshu's voice was flat, as if it was the most routine thing in the world. A wave of admiration rose in Fengqi's chest. "Very impressive, taking down a level 33 mutant beast while sitting at level 17. Your batch just keeps producing one extraordinary talent after another." A faint smile crossed Xiao Yunshu's lips. His face radiated complete confidence. "Don't worry, Professor. This is an era of talent, that much is certain. But as long as I'm here, nobody is unbeatable. I'll crush every rival and claw my way to the very top of humanity." Xiao Yunshu glanced to the side and noticed that every single instructor had their face covered. Not one of them said a word. Then he looked up at the large screen and saw the name. His face went completely still right where he stood. 10,000 voices in his head refused to accept it. Impossible. Impossible. How can anyone be stronger than me? Even counting the armored lizard, I'm still behind, by 100 points. Seeing the doubt crash across Xiao Yunshu's face, Fengqi said with a touch of resignation, "We were just discussing this. A score like that almost certainly means a senior student took him along. Don't let it bother you." Xiao Yunshu let out a breath of relief. But every last bit of satisfaction he'd felt from completing a second Transcendence mission evaporated along with it. He said a quick goodbye to Fengqi, clenched his jaw, and strode off with fierce determination toward the mountains swallowed in darkness. Meanwhile, I headed back to the dorm and went out for barbecue with my roommates. I also handed Luo Shun and Lu Ning off to their new team. The next morning at 9 a.m., I arrived at the registration point and picked 2 high-difficulty missions requiring 4th Transcendence combat capability. The moment I entered the mountain region, the female officer immediately called for Yang Xiao. This time he took 4th Transcendence difficulty missions. Yang Xiao drew a sharp breath. 4th Transcendence? That's the equivalent of level 40 mutant beasts. Armed helicopters at full capacity can't even scratch them. Tell Yue Academy to send an instructor to protect Chen Lin. The female officer got to work immediately. It didn't take long. A message was relayed through the smart wristbands to the 3 Yue Academy instructors stationed at the base. After a quick discussion, they decided to send Jiang Yue. That way, if Chen Lin ever hit the emergency signal, backup could reach him in the shortest possible time. At that same moment, deep inside a tangled forest of massive trees and vines, a giant black wolf was sprinting forward at high speed. About an hour later, he arrived at the mission's target location. A massive level 44 three-headed serpent was issuing its warning. I quietly extended my hand. The mysterious blood blade, just over a meter in length, materialized. As I slowly raised my hand and let it fall, all of the three-headed serpent's pupils constricted at the exact same moment. It felt death closing in on it. The very next instant, the left head suddenly let out a sharp, agonized shriek. Then it went limp and collapsed against the rocks. The other 2 heads probed it frantically. When they got no response, panic swept across both heads in an instant. I then ordered Hemming to go in and finish it. The moment the command landed, Hemming let out an earth-splitting roar. His body exploded outward to nearly 300 meters in length. Black flames erupted across his entire body. Sensing the terrifying aura, the three-headed serpent threw its jaws wide open and unleashed a sharp stream of purple venom. Hemming pushed straight forward, completely ignoring the poison, and clamped his teeth down hard around the middle head's neck. The remaining head roared as it watched its companion being savagely mauled, then drove its own fangs deep into Hemming's flesh. In an instant, the venom spread through his bloodstream and into every organ. It was only Hemming's raw physical constitution that made him capable of enduring the assault. Black light flashed across his claws. Hemming wrenched the biting head away and hurled it aside with full force. At that same moment, I drew my sword and vanished. Then I appeared directly in front of the three-headed serpent. The blade drove hard into one of its eyes. The head that took the hit let out a soul-shaking shriek of agony. Right then, Hemming's claws, blazing with black flames, swung in a wide arc and slammed the serpent hard into the ground. But its tail, as thick as a building and more than 30 meters long, whipped upward in a sweeping arc. I blocked it immediately with my sword. The impact sent me crashing into the ground. Seeing that, Hemming exploded with rage. Black light erupted from his claws and detonated in the air. The serpent's tough hide, which had been incredibly resilient just moments before, shredded apart like paper. Horrific wounds several meters deep tore open across its surface. Hemming immediately spun and sank his teeth deep into the neck of the last remaining head, tearing at it with savage intensity, as if sheer willpower alone could rip it completely free. Two massive creatures, both over 100 meters tall, crashed and thrashed against each other. The earth split open, and towering trees came crashing down all around them. I climbed to my feet out of the dust and debris without a single scratch. The silver butterfly's protection held steady as always. Watching the two giants tear into each other with mounting ferocity, I walked over and sat down on a nearby rock. The rest was Hemming's to handle. Just then, a tall woman in white armor quietly approached from a short distance away. My battle sword was in my hand in the blink of an eye. The weight indicator flashed and the blade locked. Then I looked up in surprise. "Instructor, what are you doing out here?" Hearing that, Jiang Yue quietly steadied her trembling fingers. She said, without any expression, "Just passing through." At that moment, a serpent head 30 meters wide came roaring down from above. The ground shook with a thunderous crash, and dust and debris exploded in every direction. A terrifying shriek echoed for several kilometers. Hemming stood proudly over the three-headed serpent's carcass. The black flames hungrily converted the serpent into energy and purification value. Jiang Yu was visibly shaken. Even from this distance, that savage aura sent a chill crawling across her skin. Inside the command center, chaos broke out. 3 full transcendence gaps, a 28-level difference, and he actually pulled it off. How can his combat power possibly be this overwhelming? I'm starting to think he's even stronger than the person who awakened the SS-Rank talent. Streams of black fire drifted through the air and were absorbed back into Hemming's body. His size rapidly contracted, and then he came over and lay down beside me to rest. Jiang Yue quickly voiced her concern and then left. I opened the map, plotted the route, climbed onto Hemming's back, and kept moving. After consuming the three-headed serpent and its life crystal, Hemming's body grew by a full meter in one shot. His evolution value jumped up by 10 points. At this rate, Hemming would evolve again in about 4 or 5 days. That evolution would bring his life tier to the high-grade summon level with a complete advancement in talent as well. After that, his combat power would undoubtedly reach an entirely new and terrifying height. Right then, a violent commotion erupted in the distance. With a thunderous roar, a wild bull came charging into view. Its entire body was covered in thick, rigid, dark yellow scales. Both of its horns were more than 30 meters long. With every step its enormous hooves took, the ground cracked beneath it. This was the second mission target, a level 45 enraged horned bull. I didn't hesitate for even a second. I immediately stacked my enhancement techniques. Hemming roared, his body swelled even larger. Black flames erupted in every direction. In the same instant, golden light burst outward, full combat power, completely unleashed. At that same moment, the enraged horned bull's razor-sharp horns surged forward with tremendous force. Hemming raised his front legs and caught the blow with both claws. The terrifying force of the impact sent Hemming skidding violently backward, carving a long, deep groove into the ground. The drone flying overhead barely managed to keep up with them. In the command center, Yang Xiao immediately barked an order. "Tell every cadet in that area to clear out immediately. The beast Chen Lin summoned doesn't watch where it hits during a fight." The female officer heard him and got right to work. Hemming spread both claws wide. Black light rose to the surface. He threw his full strength into it and flipped the enraged horned bull clean over, dropping it hard onto its back. That massive body hit the ground and sent dust and dirt exploding in all directions. At that same moment, a group of 2 men and 3 women came sprinting out from several hundred meters away. They turned and looked back at the scene unfolding behind them, clearly shaken. So that's why the command center told us to clear out. Good thing we moved fast. If we'd been caught in the blast radius, we'd be dead by now. Hold on. One of them is level 45. The other one's only level 16. You're telling me that one over there is level 16? All 5 of them stared in disbelief. A nearby female instructor sensed the commotion and immediately moved to step in. But Jiang Yue appeared out of nowhere and stepped directly into her path. "Leave it. That's a beast summoned by a first-year cadet from Yuhei Academy." The female instructor froze. Her face went completely blank. "A first year? You've got to be kidding me." Reading her reaction, the corner of Jiang Yue's lips curved into a faint smile. She said calmly, "He's genuinely extraordinary this year." The female instructor stood there, stunned. Extraordinary? That's not a person. That's a monster. Fourth transcendence in his first year. Is this what Yuhe Academy's reputation is built on? Is he one of those students? Jiang Hua's face hardened for a moment. He cleared his throat and said, she and Ji Fei had been close friends since childhood. That naturally made her students almost like his own, which was entirely fair. Hearing this, a flicker of envy crossed the female instructor's eyes. Half an hour later, Haiming had finally swallowed the racing hornbull. He swept his gaze around, didn't find me, and immediately turned to head back. It wasn't long before he spotted me, being chased down and beaten by a mutant frog standing over 50 meters tall. He flared up in fury and lunged toward me in the blink of an eye. With one devastating swipe of his claw, he instantly killed that level 36 mutant beast. I let out a long breath of relief. After using recovery arts and resting for half an hour, we pushed forward in search of mutant beasts level 40 and above. Both mission objectives had been cleared. I didn't choose to head back to the registration point right away. The back and forth would eat up too much time, and even if I missed a few contribution points, it didn't matter. Right now, the top priority was developing Haiming as fast as possible, reaching level 20, and entering the Transcendence Tangon. Ever since I'd learned just how fragile humanity's situation truly was, a strange restlessness had been gnawing at me. Deep in the darkness of the night, Haiming stood wrapped in a terrifying aura. At his feet lay the corpses of 2 level 42 mutant beasts. Black flames slowly consumed them, converting their energy and channeling it into Haiming's body. I sat on the ground, gasping. My spiritual energy had pushed far past its limits. I couldn't even run recovery arts anymore. My mind felt hollow and drained. My physical stamina was nearly gone too. My body had gone numb from the pain. I had just saved Haiming from a mutant beast's attack. I'd barely made it out alive, but the payoff was worth it. Over the course of the full day, 15 mutant beasts above level 40 had been killed. Haiming's resting body had grown to 58 meters. All stats had increased by 58 points. If I'd faced that bull head-on, I would have taken it down in 10 minutes flat. And those 2 nearby level 42 mutants were basically nothing now. Evolution value had also increased by 195 points. Only 1,020 points remained until completion. When I returned to Hengduan base, everyone collectively exhaled. The female officer took a deep breath, unable to hide the disbelief in her voice. This is insane. 15 mutant beasts at level 40 or above, in a single day. If we convert that into contribution points, it's well over 2,000. Everyone around her looked at her with deep reverence. The highest-ranked cadet at our Hengduan base right now is only at 700, right? Yeah, Zikong from Yang Academy's 4th year, the champion from 3 years ago. What about the other bases? Yang Xiao asked. The female officer's fingers flew across the controls. A response came back shortly after. Luoxing Base, home to Belong Academy and several others, has the highest cadet contribution score at 1,000. Second place goes to Cloud Sky Academy in the south at 890. Then there's Qingtian Academy in the west at 850. Over 100 academies across a dozen military bases are involved in this cleanup operation. They started with the mountain ranges that had the largest surface areas and densest mutant populations. Then they'll work outward to clear the surrounding regions. This campaign will run for several months, until the mutant population no longer poses a threat to the cities. How did we fall this far behind? Not just in individual rankings, but the gap in total cleanup progress is massive. Luoxing Base has a serious lead, Yang Xiao said, frowning. The female officer replied, Belong Academy tops every annual evaluation. It's held first place consistently. Naturally, most of the strongest applicants prefer to enroll there, and this year's cohort of talented cadets is exceptionally strong. Think about how intense the competition must be among them. Everyone's going all out. Nobody wants to fall behind. But that's actually a good thing. The faster they clear their zone, the sooner they can send support to the bases that are lagging. Aside from the 5 bases assigned to the top academies, the remaining 13 are in really rough shape. The number of mutant beasts at level 20 and above has barely dropped. Yang Xiao nodded. That's exactly why we need to move fast here and then help as many of the other bases as we can. I arrived at the registration site at 2:30 a.m. Streetlights buzzed overhead. Cadets were hauling mutant carcasses in vehicles and barbecuing them. The moment I submitted my mission, my ranking jumped from 1,245 straight to 10th place. I didn't pay it much mind. I turned and headed back toward the dorm. The second I opened the door, Feng came sprinting over and stared at me like I was something from another dimension entirely. Just be straight with me, Chenlin. Are you seriously from some alien tribe hiding in human form? The gap in power is way beyond what makes sense. I just smiled and said nothing. I dropped into my chair. The whole academy's shared forum was already in an uproar. Feng sat down beside me and said, "Everyone figured some senior student had taken you along. They're ripping into that kind of behavior pretty hard right now. Even if you'd completed the third Transcendence mission first and earned 100 contribution points, that alone would have been barely believable. But now, almost everyone's calling it fake. They think the whole thing was made up. It's basically the equivalent of telling everyone you lost your virginity to a supermodel at summer camp. Absolutely nobody is going to buy it without photo evidence. Zikong Sr. is in serious hot water right now. He's the biggest suspect. A lot of people are pointing fingers directly at him. I asked curiously, why him specifically? Right at that moment, a friend request came through on my smart wristband from Zikong himself, the same senior student everyone was wrongly blaming for taking me along. I accepted it immediately. His very first message was a single line, "Interested in a level 52 flame breath rock dragon tomorrow?" I looked at Zikong's message and typed back, "I just need the life crystals. The rest of the contribution points are yours." We worked out a meeting spot and time. The next morning, I made my way to the base's main gate. Zikong and the others were already there. The girl standing next to Zikong looked up with curious eyes and said brightly, "Hey, I'm Kaishi." The other young guy was Wang Yao. I nodded in greeting. The four of us piled into an armored vehicle and drove deep into the mountains. Along the way, Zikong explained, "There are traces of king-level blood rock in the massive rock track. Its abilities aren't fully clear. We'll need to be extra careful when engaging it. Wang Yao and I will take the front line. Keishi will hang back and provide buffs and healing. Junior Chenlin, what's your summoned beast's combat strength like?" I said calmly, "Going head-to-head with the rock dragon isn't a problem for me." All three of their faces lit up the moment I said that. They thought to themselves, we picked the right guy. If my combat strength had only been barely on par with a level 40 mutant beast, this fight would have been brutal. But seeing how unfazed I was, they relaxed considerably. The armored vehicle covered 200 kilometers. Everyone climbed out. Zikong stopped and turned around. "This is the rock dragon's territory. I'll draw it out. Everyone get ready to hold your positions." I spoke up casually. "No need." I focused my mind. A massive black wolf, 58 meters long, materialized, and its savage, violent aura instantly spread in every direction. A terrifying howl thundered for kilometers around, sending countless mutant beasts fleeing in panic. The three of them visibly flinched. Then, responding to that howl, two glowing yellow vertical pupils, like lanterns, suddenly snapped open inside a rocky cave. A chilling aura burst outward. With an earth-shaking roar, the rock dragon emerged. The ground trembled and shook with every step it took. Its massive body stretched over 500 meters, covered head to tail in stone-like armored scales, wrapped in a terrifying aura. The three of them exchanged grim looks. They realized they'd underestimated it. Even so, my expression stayed calm. I reached out through my mind to Haiming. Haiming instantly expanded to nearly 500 meters. Black flames erupted outward. A golden light surfaced across his body, and his aura grew even more menacing. The sight rattled all three of them to the core. The rock dragon's eyes flashed with contempt. It sensed that the creature before it was at a lower life tier. Only those black flames gave it the faintest hint of unease. Then a spark of challenge lit up in Haiming's eyes. The rock dragon exploded with rage. Its front legs slammed into the ground. The earth shattered. Dozens of razor-sharp stone spikes shot toward Haiming. Haiming didn't dodge. He took them head-on with his ironclad body. Black light blazed across his claws, and in the blink of an eye, he shattered the stone pillars completely. Then the rock dragon roared and charged. A claw over 100 meters thick pressed down through the air with crushing force. Haiming quickly stepped forward and swiped back. But his claw barely scraped a thin layer off the stone surface. Then the rock dragon spun around and slammed another claw into Haiming. This time the strike carried the power of its innate ability. Yellow light flashed and flickered brilliantly. In an instant, the weight multiplied like a mountain, and the blow landed with devastating force. The sheer power split cracks through the air. Haiming's golden defensive light shattered immediately, and he was sent skidding far across the ground. The moment the fight started, Zikong called out, "Kaishi, drop group buffs. Single target buffs go to Chenlin's beast." He was sharp and decisive. He could clearly see that the rock dragon was far more powerful than any of them had anticipated. This was a level 52 mutant beast with king-level bloodline. There was no way their team could take it down with a tier jump kill. Even if the levels had been equal, this fight would have been brutal. But he was just as stunned. A level 16 summoned beast holding its ground against a level 52 mutant, a 36-level gap. That was genuinely terrifying. Keishi nodded without hesitation. A brilliant golden aura spread around her. 4 pentagonal patterns emerged beneath all 3 of them, and a steady stream of power flowed out from under Haiming's feet. One after another, buffs were stacked entirely onto Haiming, and his 4 main stats shot up significantly in a single moment. Keishi's face filled with shock. If these buffs had been applied to Zikong, his strength would have at least doubled. But on this summoned beast, the increase had been noticeably dampened. It was almost uncomfortable to watch. Keishi kept pushing without pause. She sharpened her focus and activated her innate ability, Divine Punishment Goddess's Sanctuary. After a brief incantation, a divine figure, holding 2 gleaming swords in each hand, slowly materialized above the massive black wolf. Its eyes opened. In an instant, a crushing, all-encompassing divine pressure radiated outward in every direction. At the same moment, I quietly activated my enhancement arts. With multiple buffs stacking all at once, Haiming's stats climbed to 2,000. The surge of magical power made the black flames burn even more ferociously. Even from 100 meters away, all 3 of them felt the scorching heat pressing down on them like a physical weight. This transformation put the rock dragon on full alert. It suddenly whipped its gaze toward the 3 of them and let out a furious snarl. Zikong's expression went serious. He drew his sword and activated his innate ability, Absolute Transcendence. The ground beneath him cracked apart. He appeared above the rock dragon's head as if he'd teleported there in an instant, and launched dozens of strikes in rapid succession. But the rock dragon's hide was hard as stone. Not a single blow made a dent. To the dragon, these attacks were less than a minor annoyance. Zikong made the call to pull back immediately, but the moment he leaped off the dragon's head, the rock dragon suddenly snapped its head back and let out a thunderous roar. In the very next moment, a burst of yellow energy exploded outward and spread 100 meters in every direction, forming a field. A crushing, unbearable gravitational force slammed down on Zikong. He struggled just to stay on his feet. A massive palm cast a wide shadow over him and came crashing down fast. Keishi's expression shifted in an instant. She threw every defensive technique she had at it, but the barriers she raised were paper-thin. Not one of them held for even a second before shattering. Desperation surged through Zikong. Ignoring the explosive pain ripping through his body, he fought frantically to break free. Just as the massive palm was about to crush him, a black shadow shot in and slammed into it. The force of the brutal impact knocked the rock dragon off balance, sending a powerful shockwave blasting outward in every direction. Seeing the massive black wolf standing in front of him, Zikong scrambled out of the crater and sprinted back to the group. He said with a bitter smile, "I didn't expect the rock dragon to have a second innate ability. Its combat power might actually be higher than a beginner-tier mutant beast. There's no way we can beat it like this." He'd been worried about whether I was reliable before, and now he was the first one who almost didn't make it. If Haiming hadn't been there, he almost certainly would have died. He had officially transitioned from the seasoned, confident party leader to the group's designated damsel in distress in under 60 seconds. Right then, the yellow field spread outward again. Under the crushing gravitational force, Haiming was pressed down hard. Zikong asked with concern, "Can he win?" Keishi clenched her jaw. Sweat was running down her face as she poured everything she had into maintaining Haiming's buffs and healing. "If things don't change, we all pull back, we drop the mission." My expression stayed calm. "Fall back 1 kilometer, Haiming's about to go all out." All 3 of them froze. This still wasn't Haiming's full power, but they only hesitated for a moment, then turned and retreated without another word. Half a minute later, all 3 turned to look from a kilometer away. Suddenly, a monstrous, earth-shattering roar tore through the sky. Terrifying black flames erupted in a massive explosion, spreading across a 1-kilometer radius. That savage aura reached its absolute peak. A brutal, shadowy form, 700 meters in size, slowly took shape, radiating a ferocious hunger that could devour everything. All 3 of their faces went pale. Fear seeped straight down to the bone. Keishi's legs completely gave out. She could feel that the divine punishment goddess protecting Haiming had been torn apart by that power, like watching her goddess get slapped down in a single hit. The impact was just as devastating. At that same moment, terror filled the rock dragon's eyes. Wrapped in black flames, its stone-like layers began melting away one by one. The yellow energy being stripped from its body was swallowed the instant it tried to escape. It was completely overwhelmed. There was no way out. Seeing the contempt in Haiming's eyes, the rock dragon exploded with rage and came charging in with a roar. Its massive palm cut through the black flames, yellow light blazing as it slammed downward. Haiming didn't try to dodge. Claws forged from terrifying fire blazed with black light and shot forward like lightning. Both sides collided. A shockwave of black and yellow burst outward. The thunderous crash of the impact echoed in every direction. The rock dragon suddenly felt a burning pain erupt in its palm. Its stone-like layers, renowned for their incredible defense, were torn straight through by the fire claws. Scorching heat slowly began consuming its life force. Panic set in at last. It spun abruptly, and its 100-meter-long tail came thundering around in a sweep. Haiming sidestepped it with ease, then closed in on the rock dragon. His claw came down. The rock dragon let out a pitiful, pain-filled roar. It had always relied on its overwhelming defense, dominating everything in its path and rarely ever taking a real wound. Now it was on the verge of being critically injured. And even though its defense and raw strength were tremendous, its speed was slow and its movements were sluggish. In stark contrast to the range of attacks from the savage phantom form, Haiming simply kept his distance, leaving the dragon with nothing to do but stomp the ground in helpless fury. After half an hour of being worn down, the rock dragon's limbs could no longer hold it upright. Its life was almost gone. Its eyes were filled with fear. Haiming's face showed no reaction, only pure, cold hunger. Black flames boiled. His claw swung and delivered the final blow. The rock dragon roared in furious defiance, but its massive body crashed to the ground with a thunderous impact. In a single moment, the black flames swallowed it whole. At that very instant, a drone shot through the air overhead. The people in the command center watched the devastation spread across the landscape below, and every single one of them was shaken. Yang Xiao's eyes were fixed on the massive black wolf standing firm. The rock dragon was nowhere to be seen. He understood the outcome in an instant. He thought to himself, the first time jumping 2 full levels was already pushing a limit. Then he jumped 3 levels and killed the 3-headed serpent. And now he's jumped 4 levels and taken down a level 52 mutant beast with king-level bloodline. Just how many more surprises is he hiding? Yang Xiao was now completely convinced that the foreign clans would be coming after Chenlin. He let out a cold laugh. Time to make the right arrangements. Tomorrow, release the footage of Chenlin killing the 3-headed serpent on the Joint Academy platform. Everyone needs to know we have someone like this. Then the 3 of them began heading back. Kaishi said with deep admiration, Junior Chenlin, your summoned beast is genuinely terrifying. Wang Yao and Zikong both nodded in agreement. Zikong said, every other academy's going to say I carried you. The truth is you carried me. Wang Yao and I didn't contribute anything this time. Split the contribution points between you and Kaishi. I nodded. Let's stick to what we agreed on before. I want to hunt more level 50 mutants right now. Will you help me? After Haiming absorbed the rock dragon and its crystals, his evolution value jumped by 150 points straight, 10 times what a level 40 mutant would have given. Kill 10 more, and he'd evolve again. Zikong's eyes lit up. He agreed on the spot. Kaishi's support role was absolutely critical. After that, the surrounding area's level 50 to 54 mutant beasts were systematically hunted and cleared. As night deepened, I noticed that Haiming's evolution value had maxed out, so I called the 3 of them over and told them it was time to head back. The command center staff were floored. They'd taken down 11 mutant beasts at level 50 or above in a single day, faster than any instructor on record. The female officer said, there are just over 1,000 level 50-plus mutants in the Balian Mountains. At this rate, it'll only take about a month to clear them all out. Yang Xiao nodded. Those level 50 beasts are exactly what triggers the waves. Once they're gone, the powerful giants won't attack so easily. Back at the dorm, I picked up the special equipment terminal and spent contribution points to order 10 second-tier life crystals. Contribution points had far greater purchasing power than school credits. They were the frontline's currency of choice, and you could only earn them by contributing to humanity or clearing mutant beasts. The life crystals arrived quickly. I opened the lockbox and held all 10 thumb-sized crystals in both hands. In an instant, they crumbled apart, dissolving like fine powder and seeping into my body. My level jumped straight to 20. Seeing the second transcendence indicator appear on my personal panel, I pressed it without hesitation. A burst of white light flashed outward. When my vision cleared, I was standing in a vast open field. A transparent frame appeared before me. Coordinate ID 0996. This is a world that has been invaded by the Fallen Clan. They enslave everything in their path and expand without end. Mission: eliminate the Fallen. Time limit: 24 hours. Cannot voluntarily return to Blue Star. I raised an eyebrow slightly. The Fallen, one of the clans attacking humanity, actually had the ability to invade other worlds too. A short while later, I reached the edge of a cliff. Down below, near an orchard, stood gray-skinned Fallen, 2 meters tall, each with 2 horns, laughing with vicious amusement while hollow-faced people cut their own skin to feed red-fruited trees with their blood. The sight made my blood boil. Silver light flashed. Armor locked around my entire body. I leaped off the 100-meter cliff and the ground below cracked on impact. 2 Fallen were mid-conversation when an earth-shaking blast erupted behind them. They spun around in confusion. Through billowing clouds of dust, a silver silhouette advanced at blinding speed. In the blink of an eye, I was right in front of them. An armored fist wrapped in a white shockwave slammed into one Fallen's face. The crack of a broken nose rang out. It flew like a cannonball, skidding dozens of meters before crashing face first into the mud. If its body hadn't been so physically tough, its skull would have already caved in. The second Fallen's expression shifted instantly. It gathered black energy in its hand, shaped it into a spear, and hurled it at me. I didn't bother dodging. I grabbed the spear by the tip and snapped it clean in half. The Fallen panicked, spun around, and started screaming for its allies. But I was faster. I drew my war sword and cut it in two with a single strike. Gray blood splattered across my armor. Every Fallen in the area was on high alert now. Pair after pair of unsettling eyes locked onto me, burning with fury. I stood my ground without flinching. The war sword slowly extended past 3 meters and transformed into a powerful war halberd. Its terrifying weight hummed through the air with a resonant roar. The moment I appeared in front of one of them, it had no time to react. It raised a shield trying to block the blow, but the single strike sent it flying into the rock face. It stared up at me through heavy eyes. It was faster and stronger than me, and it was a 3-ring Fallen. But then it glanced toward the 80% of Fallen still in the orchard and flashed a merciless grin. "Everyone rush him together, tear him apart, and water the blood fruit with his blood." Every Fallen roared. Black energy surged. A suffocating, nauseating stench filled the air. It didn't affect me in the slightest. I shot forward. The war halberd swept through the air and demolished everything in its path. The 2 nearest Fallen had their skulls caved in before they could do anything. One after another, spears came flying and struck my armor, but not one of them penetrated a single hair's width. In the moment of stunned hesitation that followed, the war halberd sliced through the air and wiped out several of them in one clean sweep. Swinging a 13-ton war halberd with 220 strength points, one Fallen after another was torn apart and hit the ground in pieces. Jintai started to panic. He wrapped chains of black energy around me. "Everyone press in together, now!" Then Jintai felt a sudden, violent pull from the other end of the chains. His body was yanked forward against his will, and the war halberd came thundering down from above. His face went pale. He threw every last bit of his innate ability into defense. His outer skin layer ruptured, and hard black armor like chitin pushed through from beneath. Even so, the war halberd split him clean in two. Watching his higher-ranked kin die such a brutal death, Jintai's eyes went bloodshot. He spun and bolted toward the king's city. I immediately shifted the war halberd into a war spear, aimed it at Jintai's fleeing figure, and flexed every muscle in my arm. I hurled it with full force. The war spear tore through the air. Jintai's skull exploded in an instant. The remaining Fallen roared immediately. "He's out of weapons! Rush him!" The words weren't even finished before I closed the gap on the first one who charged and drove my fist straight into its skull. I started fighting barehanded. Every punch trailed a white shockwave. It wasn't long before all 80 Fallen had been reduced to rubble. Just as I was about to go retrieve the war spear, a massive eye made entirely of gray-patterned shapes materialized in the sky. I looked up at it. The feeling was unmistakable. I'd been found. I took a slow, steady breath, cleared my mind, and called Hyming. His body, well over 100 meters, was wrapped in a terrifying and menacing aura. A massive army of Fallen was already on its way. As a precaution, I immediately pressed the button to confirm evolution. With my confirmation, the core power hidden deep within Haiming's body trembled with overwhelming force. Waves of ferocious evolutionary energy surged through his entire body in rapid pulses. He transformed into a pillar of black light that shot straight up through the clouds and shattered the gray eye above. It felt as though the sky and earth themselves shook. Congratulations! Your summoned beast Haiming has acquired the Wellspring skill and awakened a new talent, Death's Dual Gauge. All stats have increased by 90 points. I let out a long breath of relief. Another massive all-around upgrade. The biggest achievement was the flame. It had now evolved into Heaven Blaze. After the fusion of 3 power sources, it could now create a domain. As for Death's Dual Gauge, even though I hadn't used it yet, an A-rank talent could never be weak. At that same moment, mechanical patterns suddenly blazed across the sky. A massive gray eye reappeared. Then from beyond the horizon, a dense horde of Fallen came surging forward with ferocious speed. The 10 Fallen at the front were already at level 55. In all of humanity's history, no Transcendence dungeon at the level 20 threshold had ever been this difficult. It was the equivalent of stepping into a beginner's tutorial and being asked to parallel park a flaming aircraft carrier. My thinking shifted. The war spear morphed and reshaped itself into a war halberd. I said in a cold, flat tone, "Haiming, don't leave a single one standing." The moment the words left my mouth, Haiming rapidly expanded into a massive black beast, over 550 meters tall and more than 1,000 meters long. Black flames erupted across his entire body. His deep blue pupils had turned gray, carrying an aura of death so heavy that every living creature's heart seized with fear. A thunderous roar echoed for over 10 kilometers in every direction. Under that oppressive aura, every Fallen in the horde stopped dead in their tracks. A bone-deep terror seeped into every single one of them from the outside in. The scorching flames blazing across his massive body made them feel as though annihilation itself was standing right in front of them. Even from several kilometers away, the searing heat hadn't let up one bit. At over 1,000 meters in size, every single step Haiming took covered hundreds of meters. That one step alone put every 5-ring Fallen on maximum alert. Then Haiming exploded forward with devastating force. The ground shattered across a radius of hundreds of meters. At the same time, he activated swiftness to build speed and wellspring to draw in heaven and earth energy. His massive body appeared in the middle of the Fallen horde in an instant. Haiming fixed them with a cold, lifeless stare. He raised his enormous claw and brought it down. A massive shadow fell over everything. Multiple Fallen were crushed beneath that terrifying strike and swallowed by black flames in the same instant. Seeing this, the leader Lailis immediately shouted, "Ignore that beast. Go kill the human." Watching all the Fallen flow around him and push forward, Haiming's pupils went ice cold in an instant. His front claw came down. With a thunderous crash, the black flames covering his body detonated outward for kilometers in every direction, consuming everything within. Countless Fallen suddenly trembled with uncontrollable fear. They weren't just feeling a burning agony, their life force was being stripped away at a terrifying rate. Within just a few seconds, the weaker Fallen had already crumbled to ash. Lailis visibly shook. "What the hell is this power? It's burning our life force directly." Life force represented a being's lifespan. Once lost, it couldn't be recovered without rare celestial materials. He immediately barked the order. "Push forward now. The longer this drags on, even if we win, there won't be enough life left to matter." The 9 5-ring Fallen nodded. They drew their most powerful weapons and unleashed their deadliest strikes all at once. But when the attacks landed on Haiming, a golden light surfaced across his body and an unshakable, immovable force surged through him. Every single attack was completely stopped cold. Seeing that impenetrable defense, Lailis ground his teeth in fury. Then an enormous claw came crashing down like an entire mountain range collapsing and slammed into the ground with an ear-splitting boom. Black bone wings burst from Lailis' back instantly. He shot sideways like a blade. But then a boundless terror rose in his mind. A pair of merciless eyes filled with a meaning of death materialized from nothing and locked onto him. Empowered by the Death's dual gaze, the power to paralyze surged to an extreme. The massive claw came down, and Lailis couldn't move a single muscle. The ground beneath him shattered in an instant, as if the entire world had flipped upside down. Watching the massive black wolf descend on them like a natural disaster, the remaining 9 Fallen looked at each other and saw the same fear reflected back. "This beast is terrifying. It's a monster. Let's run." The other 8 Fallen nodded in unison. They all spread their black bone wings at the same time and bolted desperately toward the king's city. Haiming swallowed Lely's whole right where he was pinned under his claw, then he raised his eyes and fixed a cold gaze on one of the fleeing fallen. Haiming appeared behind it in an instant. Black light blazed across his claws and he tore it apart. Seeing that, the remaining 5 ring fallen were paralyzed with terror. They wished with everything they had for a second pair of bone wings. At that same moment, a death energy poured from Haiming's eyes, a force that made every fallen's skin crawl. One fallen was engulfed by it. The space around it turned gray, and its life force vanished in an instant. At the same time, I watched the other fallen charging straight at me, my face completely blank. My body shot forward. The war spear swept in every direction. The fallen burst apart in showers of blood and flesh, going quiet one by one. Before long, everything within a 100-meter radius was nothing but ash and scattered body parts. Once the battle was over, I regrouped with Haiming and broke into a run down the same path the fallen had come from, fully intent on hunting down every last one of them. After consuming several thousand fallen this time, Haiming's body grew another 5 meters. The energy needed for further growth had clearly increased substantially. The evolution value only went up by 100 points, roughly 10 times harder than the previous evolution. Right at that moment, a grand city hundreds of meters tall came into view. Countless fallen had already pulled back. Only a single level 59 fallen stood alone, waiting. Liati's eyes were ice cold. Behind his 6-meter frame stretched a pair of terrifying black bone wings. Waves of suffocating pressure coiled around him. The sight of that figure made my voice go cold too, a genuinely revolting aura. Haiming, handle this. I'm going to finish off the rest of the fallen. Haiming expanded to 1,000 meters in a single instant. Black flames erupted outward, making him look like some apocalyptic beast of ruin. Savage power radiated in every direction. The 1,000-meter field cracked and began to break apart. Haiming lurched forward in one explosive movement and appeared directly in front of the massive city. Staring up at the massive black wolf 100 times his size, Liati's face showed absolutely nothing. His claws blazed with black light as they tore through the air and came crashing down on Haiming like lightning. But just as the strike was about to land, a barrier of black energy materialized, completely impenetrable. A beast whose life tier hasn't even reached king level. Does it really think killing a few worthless ants means it can turn the world upside down? Liati said in a flat, calm voice. Then he casually flicked a single finger. The black barrier exploded in an instant, sending Haiming skidding hundreds of meters back. Immediately after, black power surged with overwhelming force and condensed into a massive demonic sword stretching over 100 meters. Layer after layer of black energy began spiraling upward around Liati's body. His aura hit its absolute peak in a single moment. The demon prince of my fallen clan is nothing like those worthless creatures. Accept your death gracefully. Liati swung the demonic sword in one violent arc. The shadow of the 100-meter blade crashed down onto Haiming's body in an instant. A golden light surfaced across Haiming, but it held for only a few seconds before it shattered. Haiming took the blow purely on the strength of his 2,500 physical endurance stat. The ground around him sank dozens of meters in an instant. The demonic sword carved an enormous fissure of immeasurable depth into the earth before him. Liati said, "You're impressive. I'll give you one chance. Become my mount. All you have to do is stay out of the way when I go to kill that human."
At those words, a rage unlike anything ever seen before ignited in both of Haiming's eyes. He locked onto Ladis with a fierce, unyielding glare and let out a thunderous roar that shook both the heavens and the earth. Black flames erupted across his entire body, and in the blink of an eye they spread across several kilometers, swallowing everything in scorching fire. A monstrous, savage phantom, standing over 2,000 meters tall, began to solidify. This time the phantom was nearly tangible, and the aura radiating from it forced all of creation to tremble. Feeling that all-consuming power bearing down on him, Ladis's expression slowly turned grim. His own life force was being drained away. Haiming fixed Ladis with an ice-cold stare. Without even moving, he simply raised his claw and brought it down. The savage phantom mirrored the motion exactly. Ladis's expression shifted. He poured every last drop of his depleted power into reinforcing his barrier, but even so, he couldn't withstand the phantom's massive black claw. He was driven forcefully into the ground. Ladis's face twisted in fury. Feeling his life force being continuously stripped away, He exploded in pure rage, and a terrifying burst of power detonated from within him, but it barely spread 10 meters before it stalled completely. That realization stunned him. Before he could recover, the savage phantom's claw struck again. Latus was hurled past the city's thick, heavy walls and sent crashing hundreds of meters away. In that same instant, Latus's body suddenly expanded to dozens of meters. Dark markings spread across every inch of his skin. Behind him, wings of black bone unfurled completely, stretching a full 100 meters wide. In his hand, a long black spear slowly materialized. Dark energy detonated in every direction. Talented fallen demon phantom, die. Latus roared, and his body vanished instantly. He tore through wave after wave of black flames and thrust the sharp black spear straight forward. But Hyming's reaction speed was even faster. With the attack range bonus granted by Brutal Phantom, Hyming slapped Latus clean out of the air and slammed him into the ground, cratering the earth on impact. Latus dragged himself back to his feet, teeth grinding. Born a fallen noble, he had never suffered this kind of humiliation in his entire life. Usually, if he was going to get slapped around and dominated this thoroughly, he had to pay a professional extra for the privilege. "What are you all waiting for?" he screamed. "Activate the Fallen Sky Sealing Array." His voice carried to the rear. In an instant, a black dome descended like an inverted bowl, covering the entire vast city. Dozens of meters wide, chains saturated with fallen power materialized out of nowhere and coiled around Hyming, locking him in place. Streams of dark energy poured through the chains into his body, as if trying to corrupt and assimilate him completely. Seeing Hyming bound, Latus burst into hysterical laughter. Tens of thousands of fallen warriors were pouring their full power into it. Not even someone with Charing's level of strength could break free from this. "When this is all over, I'm going to make you suffer." Slowly. In that moment, Hyming roared. Heaven blaze, gluttonous greed, gigantification, and death's dual gaze, all four powers merged as one. The black flames erupted with violent intensity, spreading 1,000 meters in an instant. A sense of death permeated the entire area. In that moment, every living thing caught within that sea of black fire would die. Even an immortal god would be destroyed in those flames. Simultaneously, the brutal phantom hovering over Hyming's body became completely real. An enormous pair of eyes appeared. Ashen, heavy pupils filled with a horrifying death wish, a single glance enough to erase its target. Within this domain, he was the supreme ruler. Born from 3 talents, this domain was incomprehensibly terrifying. In that instant, Latus's smile froze. His eyes slowly filled with fear. Trapped inside the domain, not only was his life force being continuously devoured and converted by the black flames, the death wish was also steadily grinding him down. "Damn it! Let's see it then. Which comes first, you draining my life force, or me corrupting you?" Latus screamed in desperate defiance. He poured every last shred of fallen power he had left into the chains, accelerating the corruption. The power multiplied several times over. Boundless fallen energy washed over every part of Hyming's body, trying to corrupt his flesh and soul entirely. Hyming threw his head back and roared. His iron will held the fallen power at bay, allowing it to advance only in agonizing inches. From the day he was born, he had been rejected by the wolf pack, written off as a tiny, weak mutation, and abandoned in the merciless wild. Hunger and cold had nearly stolen every last bit of warmth from him. It was the master's call that had saved him. From that moment on, Hyming had made a decision. He would always follow the master. Not out of obligation, but because it was his choice. In that same instant, Brutal Phantom roared as well, without any command from Hyming. The dark gray energy coiled around the chains shattered them outright. The massive claws swept down and tore the restraints apart. Then Brutal Phantom turned its cold gaze onto Latus. The terrifying death wish within it detonated. Latus felt an overwhelming, immediate threat. His entire body went ashen in a single moment. In mere seconds, more than half his life force had been ripped away. Then a surge of dark power erupted from within him, shattering the death wish. Latus's face went pale. The protective power his father had granted him was now completely spent. He no longer had the nerve to stay. He turned and fled into the sky. Meanwhile, on the other side, I had already arrived at the vast palace courtyard behind the great city. A war spear, hurled through the air from hundreds of meters away, tore through the atmosphere and plunged into a dense crowd of fallen warriors, wiping out a large group in a single strike. The remaining fallen roared and released their fallen power. The thick dark energy condensed into long chains that coiled around me as waves of fallen energy poured through them into my body. I felt nothing, but the silver butterfly within my mind let out a pained cry. My expression turned serious. Just as I was about to brace myself and endure it, a thunderous crash sounded from far away. A massive corpse, dozens of meters long, smashed through building after building and came crashing down directly onto a cluster of fallen warriors. Every fallen warrior went still the moment they saw that corpse. Leitis was dead. Terror spread through them like wildfire. Hyming had shattered the chains without a second thought. I exhaled in relief, then looked over at Hyming, still wrapped in the aura of death, and frowned. From now on, he could never use Death's dual gaze again. The backlash was something the current Hyming simply couldn't survive. Sensing my concern, Hyming said he would recover with time. I nodded. I began sweeping through every fallen warrior remaining in the palace. As I cleared it out and stepped into the main courtyard, the sky suddenly turned pitch black. Immense fallen energy permeated the air, slowly taking shape. And finally, standing hundreds of meters tall, the specter forged entirely from fallen energy became solid reality. Its clear silhouette was clad in grotesque battle armor. A repulsive aura exploded outward in an instant. Dark energy surged in every direction. Even with the silver butterfly's interference, I could sense the danger this time. A savage laugh echoed out. It is done. This fallen sky shadow, concentrated from the power of tens of thousands of fallen warriors, carries the strength of 6 rings and even a fragment of its true form's power. Bakum snarled furiously. You killed our lord. Now you'll pay for it with your life. I said nothing. I drew the celestial pivot sword staff from my ring and immediately applied enhancement arts and recovery arts to Hyming. With a thunderous roar, Hyming shifted instantly into his giant form, a body of 1,000 meters wrapped in fearsome power. His aura was no less than the fallen sky shadows. The domain forged from 3 combined talents expanded in an instant. Erupting black flames streaked with veins of golden light, saturated with crushing, oppressive force, and in a single moment, the opposing oppressive domain was pushed back and shattered completely. Dozens of fallen warriors' expressions turned grave. They immediately retreated into the air, not daring to remain within the black ancient domain. This can't be right. This domain is different from before. Being inside it doesn't just drain your life force, it suppresses your power too. In that same instant, Hyming's head was covered in golden black markings radiating a divine, otherworldly light. Under that terrifying suppressive force, everything around him became impossibly heavy. The black gold power burst outward, the aura of a divine demon capable of crushing even hell itself. His roar thundered across tens of thousands of meters. Empowered by the domain, Hyming's physical body grew even more formidable. Every strike now carried suppressive force, heavy and devastating. Seeing this, the dozens of fallen warriors' expressions turned even grimmer. They immediately poured their fallen power into the fallen sky phantom. The fallen sky phantom instantly expanded another 100 meters, growing even more massive. The black bone wings behind it fully unfurled, stretching a full 1,000 meters wide. The gray energy spread even further. Both powers clashed relentlessly, gray and black gold shockwaves detonating over and over, rippling outward in every direction. The cost of this battle was enormous. No one could interfere. Meanwhile, inside a gray palace, a humanoid figure seated on a throne of bones suddenly opened its black eyes. A terrifying aura awakened in an instant. Someone has used my power. It steadied its mind and looked back into the past. It didn't take long. Following a connection stretched across the void, a thread of consciousness descended into the fallen sky phantom, and the phantom was no longer without awareness. In that moment, fallen sky's consciousness arrived inside the phantom body. Its gaze fell on Hyming. It said with calm surprise, "This black wolf isn't even 6 months old, and yet it already has the power of 6 rings. That's a terrifyingly rare level of talent." At that same instant, with a roar, Hyming tore straight through the gray domain in a flash. Ignoring the corrupting energy washing over him, his claws, blazing with suppressive force and black light, came raking downward. Fallen Sky raised an eyebrow slightly. Its body retreated 1,000 meters in an instant. It tried to leap into the sky, but Hyming kept up the pressure relentlessly. His speed was even greater. Under the crushing suppressive force, the fallen sky phantom's movement slowed drastically. Exploiting that split-second gap, Hyming launched himself high into the air and came tearing downward with both claws at once. Crushed under the weight of the suppressive force, the fallen sky phantom was driven into the ground, carving a crater 1,000 meters long. The impact shook the entire world. Hyming immediately lunged forward again. Using the domain to extend his reach, he gave Fallen Sky no chance to create any distance. At the same time, both pairs of gray pupils unleashed Death's dual gaze in a continuous assault. Even though the Fallen Sky Phantom wasn't a living creature, Death's dual gaze could still impose the inevitability of death upon it. Losing a glimpse of consciousness was a minor inconvenience, but this black wolf's potential was too extraordinary to ignore. If left unchecked, humanity would soon gain another throne-level powerhouse capable of holding back the Fallen Clan's invasion. With that thought, Fallen Sky hesitated no longer. All of its fallen power erupted in a single explosive burst. Hyming was driven back. Then Fallen Sky shot straight up into the sky, and immediately afterward, boundless fallen energy began converging from every direction. Every fallen warrior in the area watched in horror as their own fallen power slipped beyond their control and tore free from their bodies. As their bodies withered and died, a deep black spear over 1,000 meters long began to take shape. The sight was nightmarish, and it didn't stop there. Fallen Sky's gray domain contracted and compressed entirely onto the length of the black spear. This was throne-level transformation, a form of domain control that surpassed lesser beings, usable either spread wide to suppress enemies or focused onto a weapon to amplify its destructive power to the extreme. Fallen Sky's gaze was calm. In an instant, it locked onto my position. A moment later, Hyming lunged forward. His 1,000-meter body placed itself directly between me and the spear. Fallen Sky let out a cold laugh. "I knew you'd protect him. Now die!" But then its motion suddenly stopped. The black gold domain hadn't expanded outward. Instead, it was pulling inward, contracting continuously. The compressed power was explosive, a resonant, sustained thrum, until it was fully absorbed into Hyming's body. In an instant, the black gold lines blazed with intense light. A wave of overwhelming suppressive force detonated across several thousand meters. The ground below immediately sank dozens of meters. Countless stones were pulverized to dust. Fallen Sky was just as shaken as it was furious. The black spear was released. In a single moment, it closed the distance directly in front of Hyming. The strike carried destructive force approaching that of 7 rings. Yet under the influence of the suppressive power radiating from Hyming's body, its speed was cut in half. Hyming roared. He raised his claw and caught the tip of the spear directly. 2 terrifying forces collided in an explosion. The shockwave spread tens of thousands of meters in every direction. Black gold streaks blazed with wild light. Hyming's defense and physical strength grew even more formidable. The ground beneath him kept cracking and crumbling. Fallen Sky pushed its fallen power to the absolute limit, sharpening the black spear's edge further and further. But after several minutes of both forces grinding against each other, cracks began to appear on the tip of the black spear and spread outward. Hyming roared and pushed his physical body and domain to their absolute limit. The 1,000-meter spear shattered into countless black fragments in a single instant. At that same moment, the fallen sky shadow lost all its power, dissolved into black smoke, and scattered. Before it faded completely, Fallen Sky etched the memory of my face deep into its mind. Its consciousness returned to the Grey Palace. Fallen Sky rose from its throne. Its aura was like a bottomless abyss, pressing down on every magical servant around it so heavily they trembled. He's only level 20. Why does he have domain compression? Its expression turned grave. That level of understanding and mastery is genuinely frightening. The conditions for breaking the 10-ring throne, this black wolf has already met them at level 20. What surprised it even further was that the black wolf's domain wasn't attached to its surface. It had been absorbed entirely into his body, something only a heavenly king level, a rank above even the throne, could achieve. Fallen Sky let out a quiet sigh, then steadied its mind. It summoned a gray talisman and entered my information into the Fallen Clan's kill list. Every human talent with the potential to reach the throne would be marked, so that fallen warriors of 6 rings or above could eliminate them directly. With that done, it leaned back against the throne and quietly closed its eyes. At that same moment, across the ruined and devastated landscape stretching in every direction, I released the enhancement arts and recovery arts. My head was heavy and spinning. Even with the Celestial Pivot Sword Staff's mental energy restoration keeping everything running, the consumption required to maintain the buffs was still far beyond sustainable limits. After a long wait, the signal marking the end of the Transcendence dungeon finally sounded, and both Hyming and I disappeared. Time's up. Final evaluation now processing. Total Fallen eliminated. Fallen Sky Phantom defeated. 974 survivors rescued. Congratulations. Your rating is perfect. Class growth attributes increased by 5%. Enhancement arts and recovery arts have grown stronger. Summoning art has advanced to Holy Summoning Art. I materialized in the dorm room. I recalled Hyming just in time to keep him from bringing the room down. Trying to casually tuck away a 1,000-meter apocalyptic wolf in a standard college dorm is a lot like trying to hide a raging erection in thin gray sweatpants. Logistically impossible, highly destructive, and guaranteed to raise some awkward questions. I checked the panel. My class hadn't advanced yet. One more perfect rating in a Transcendence dungeon was still required. But the skill improvements were significant. Enhancement Arts effectiveness had gone from 20% to 35%, and Recovery Arts had upgraded from slow healing to fast healing, though the consumption had doubled. The biggest gain was the Summoning Art advancement. From now on, every creature I summoned would carry a holy aura. Just thinking about it genuinely excited me. I didn't rush to summon anything right away. Then I checked the news on my phone. Hundreds of survivors had suddenly appeared. That was the headline. I exhaled in relief. According to the report, they were all of the same race, having come from another world and been enslaved by the Fallen. A superior individual clad in silver armor had rescued them and brought them to Blue Star. The administration would handle their resettlement. The photos showed that their malnutrition had already been resolved. It looked like Yuan had fed them blood fruit. At last, my nerves unwound, and exhaustion closed in. I collapsed onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep. In the early hours of the morning, Fenji and the others returned, completely wiped out. Seeing me fast asleep, she gritted her teeth and shook me awake. Apparently, when the military released the footage of my fight killing the three-headed serpent, the forum had erupted in a frenzy. Once everyone realized how powerful I was, they went crazy accepting missions and competing with one another. Nobody dared rest. Then Xiao Yang spoke up suddenly. Students from Belong Academy had figured out a mission cycling strategy using team rotations. Their efficiency was miles ahead of everyone else. The competitive fire reignited in all three of them instantly. They dropped any thought of eating, assembled their teams on the spot, and dove straight back into missions. I smiled watching them and got up, heading toward the mission registration point. I'd spent nearly a full day without doing a single mission. My ranking had dropped from 10th all the way past 2,000. After thinking it over for a moment, I accepted 2 missions, one to eliminate a level 59 Dark Gold Berserk Bear, and the other a 6 Transcendence difficulty mission. Then I turned and walked away. The 6 Transcendence mission required killing an intelligent giant beast, something no instructor had ever managed to complete. Xiao Yang shook his head helplessly, though a flicker of hope still crossed his mind. The dedicated drone assigned to track me followed without pause. An hour later, I rode Hyming deep into the mountains. In an open clearing, I found the Dark Gold Berserk Bear. It opened its deep golden eyes. Its 600-meter body rose to full height, and the ground beneath it trembled. A savage, violent aura radiated outward in every direction. It roared, trying to drive us away. I quietly dismounted from Hyming and immediately fell back. I left the fight to Hyming. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear's level was far above mine, so I couldn't contribute much directly. I needed to earn contribution points as quickly as possible to exchange for the metal materials required for the Silver Butterfly's fusion. Seeing me retreat to a safe distance, Hyming turned his head away. His gray eyes locked onto the Dark Gold Berserk Bear with cold indifference. His size expanded rapidly, over 1,000 meters long, 650 meters tall. The terrifying aura he radiated made the Dark Gold Berserk Bear visibly shudder. Back at the command center, the female officer was stunned. In just half a day, it went from a few hundred meters to over 1,000. Xiao Yang was equally floored. In the entire history of humanity, an SSS-Rank growth-type talent had never been seen before. The ground began to split. Hyming's massive body lunged forward in a flash. Black flames erupted. A terrifying phantom-like form over 2,000 meters tall materialized, blanketing a 6-kilometer radius in a sheet of fire, then contracted slightly to just over 2,000 meters to conserve magical energy. After the battle with Fallen Sky, Hyming's grip over his domain and power had grown considerably. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear roared. Razor-sharp energy waves coiled around its body, golden light gleaming on its claws. Against the phantom, its massive frame looked small. The black claw swept downward. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear refused to yield. It raised its own claw and blocked. Black gold shock waves detonated one after another. The earth shook. The razor energy waves were swallowed whole. The Dark Gold Berserk Bear bore the crushing mountain-like pressure as the ground beneath its paws cracked and its knees slowly began to buckle. It roared in defiance, muscles swelling as it unleashed an even more explosive surge of sharp energy. But then the brutal shadows movement abruptly shifted. Hyming seized the opening and drove straight forward. Claws of black light tore downward, carving 4 deep wounds into the Dark Gold Berserk Bear's body, straight down to the bone. The bear screamed in pain. It felt the black flames seeping in through the wounds, consuming its life force. Its eyes turned even more savage. It threw itself into a frenzied, all-out brawl with Hyming. Waves of blood poured across the ground, every drop belonging to the Dark Gold Berserk Bear. Fighting alongside Brutal Shadow, Hyming hadn't taken so much as a scratch. Finally, the dark gold berserk bear threw its head back and let out a thunderous roar. Its speed surged continuously. Then it suddenly wheeled around and fled wildly into the depths of the mountains. Every massive tree in its path was obliterated. Dust and smoke billowed up in thick, rolling clouds. Hyming paused for just a moment, then immediately gave chase. With agility exceeding 2,500, his speed was at its absolute limit. The gap closed in an instant. The dark gold berserk bear glanced back in fear and let out a desperate, bellowing cry, calling out for its king to save it. Atop a distant mountain peak, a colossal beast shifted in its sleep and slowly opened its eyes. Countless bolts of blue lightning crackled across its body. A thunderous roar echoed more than 100,000 meters in every direction. With a ground-shaking crash, a bear-like creature the size of a small mountain, shoulders 1,000 meters high, entire body blazing with blue lightning, came advancing forward. Level 62, Immortal Berserk Bear. The dark gold berserk bear ran to it and made its case. Hyming had invaded its territory without provocation. It was a truly majestic display of a 600-meter apex predator pulling a Karen, running straight to upper management to play the victim while conveniently omitting the part where it got its ass completely handed to it. At those words, the immortal berserk bear's blue lightning exploded outward in a single burst, raging in every direction. The clear sky turned into a torrential downpour. Lightning began striking the ground. Thunderclouds became a storm's eye, like the end of the world. This was the domain power of a colossal beast capable of reshaping heaven and earth. Brutal Phantom carried a bloodline above king level. My expression turned serious. I drew the celestial pivot sword staff and applied enhancement arts to Hyming. The immortal berserk bear's gaze sharpened. The ground beneath it ruptured. It appeared directly in front of Hyming in an instant. At that exact moment, black flames saturated with terrifying suppressive force erupted from Hyming's body. Black gold lines spread across his entire frame. The immortal berserk bear's body grew heavier. Its lightning domain was suppressed. Hyming summoned his own domain. At 1,000 meters, he looked like a divine demon capable of holding up heaven and earth. A fearsome aura resonated across the entire area. The immortal berserk bear was shaken to its core. Seeing the black lightning claws coming for it, the bear roared and spun its palm to block. When the black gold power met the blue power, the impact detonated like a tsunami, earth-shaking in intensity. The immortal berserk bear pushed its domain to its absolute limit, yet still couldn't break free from the grip of that suppressive force. Hyming's domain was a terrifying fusion of all three of his talents. Even the gray, suppressive domain of a throne-level power had been unable to match it. The immortal berserk bear snarled and swung its other claw, wrapped in ferocious, raging lightning. Hyming stepped forward without flinching to meet it head-on. Claws of black light made direct contact. The two colossal creatures hammered each other relentlessly, shockwave after shockwave detonating in succession. The earth broke apart. Every plant and tree was destroyed. Lightning rained down on Hyming from above repeatedly. He endured every bolt through sheer physical toughness alone, giving his opponent no opening whatsoever. I watched from a distance, quietly maintaining recovery arts. The battle that had been dead even tilted toward Hyming in an instant. The immortal berserk bear roared in fury. "Go, kill that human!" The dark gold berserk bear's eyes turned wild and it lunged straight at me. In that same instant, Hyming erupted in ferocious rage. The death intent in his gray eyes detonated, turning the entire area around the dark gold berserk bear ashen, its life force slowly draining away. The dark gold berserk bear collapsed on the spot, critically wounded. The immortal berserk bear seized that one moment of distraction. Its claws transformed into a blazing lake of lightning and struck directly at the crown of Hyming's head. Under the force of that devastating impact, Hyming's front half buckled. He took the full hit. The ground shattered. The immortal berserk bear pressed its advantage and kept up the pressure relentlessly. Lightning continued to crash down, like a barrage of continuous strikes.
Just then, the black gold berserk bear staggered to its feet. It roared and charged forward. My expression turned serious. I was just about to make a strategic retreat when a loud rumbling sound echoed from the distance. Bursting through a cloud of dust, a woman in golden armor came sprinting toward us, wielding a war spear nearly 4 meters long. Jifei. Her speed was extraordinary. With every step she took, the ground beneath her feet cracked apart. The tip of her spear dragged along the ground, leaving a long, deep groove behind it. As she closed in on the black gold berserk bear, she spun the spear and launched herself into the air. The head of the spear expanded to over 20 meters wide. She drove it downward with everything she had. A sweeping, all-crushing blow from the spear carved devastating wounds into the black gold berserk bear's already injured body. The black gold berserk bear glared at her in fury and brought its massive palm slamming down. Ji-Fei's battle spirit surged. The war spear expanded again. She shot forward in an instant, dodging the attack. Then she swept the spear horizontally outward, slicing clean through the black gold berserk bear's flesh. In just a matter of minutes, the enormous body of the black gold berserk bear collapsed to the ground. With stubborn rage, it unleashed a dense wave of razor-sharp energy. Ji-Fei had already seen it coming. Surging chi and blood erupted and solidified. The red war spear swept in all directions, shattering every single stream of energy without exception. Finally, Ji-Fei leaped upward. A spearhead spanning 30 meters came crashing down with full force. The skull of the black gold berserk bear caved in, and it was finished. Ji-Fei walked toward me with a smile and said, "So, was that rescue not worthy of some praise?" Remembering her ferocious, fighting style, the words female Tyrannosaurus floated through my mind. I quickly changed the subject. "Instructor Ji, how did you end up here?" She smiled from the corner of her lips and said, "There was so much noise, so I figured I'd come take a look. Can you believe it?" She'd said the exact same thing last time, too. Seeing the spear still in her hand, I answered honestly, "Absolutely, I believe you completely." Hyming settled down. He pulled his domain back within 1,000 meters. The suppressive force became even more intense. In a single moment, it shattered the pressure of the immortal berserk bear. Both sides plunged back into a life-or-death battle. The earth was shredded, mountain ranges collapsed. The scale of destruction was utterly terrifying. At that very moment, 10,000 meters above, lightning and thunder suddenly intensified and began striking the ground in rapid succession. Endless boiling black clouds swirled above Hyming, forming the eye of a storm that stretched 10,000 meters wide. Inside it, a contemptuous and terrifying power was slowly gathering. Hyming's gray eyes showed not even a trace of fear. He was controlling the domain as it slowly contracted. The power was being compressed. In just a dozen seconds, the domain was fully absorbed into his body. The black gold lines blazed with brilliant light, and a terrifying surge of suppressive power emerged. In that darkened world blanketed by storm clouds, on one side, there was uncontrollable, raging lightning striking down in countless bolts, like divine punishment raining from above. On the other side stood a colossal wolf, over 1,000 meters tall, its black gold markings blazing at their absolute peak. Like some divine demon tilting its head back and staring straight up at the heavens. These two terrifying forces had split the sky and earth into two halves. The sight was breathtaking and utterly magnificent. Within the storm's eye, countless lightning elements converged all at once, echoing with the immortal berserk bear's thunderous roar. In a single instant, the sky and earth were plunged into darkness for 10,000 meters in every direction. A blue pillar of lightning came roaring down from the heavens. Beneath that 1,000-meter thick column of lightning, everything, even the air itself, was annihilated. Hyming's entire body was engulfed directly by that strike. For several kilometers around, the ground ceased to exist, and yet, at the center of a crater more than 300 meters deep, the 600-meter-tall black wolf still stood. His black gold stripes burned at their peak brilliance. In that darkened world, he was the only luminous presence. The immortal berserk bear couldn't believe its own eyes. It screamed, "Impossible! How can this be?" With every step sinking deeper into a power laced with crushing pressure, Hyming walked forward, splitting the ground beneath him. He advanced toward the immortal berserk bear. His gray eyes were cold and merciless. There was only one desire in them, to kill. Hyming lunged, claws bared. A terrifying force of suppressive power crashed downward. Watching the immortal berserk bear die, a wave of joy swept through the command center. That figure, standing unmoved beneath the contemptuous roar of the lightning. These people probably would never forget it for as long as they lived. Yang Xiao smiled. As a peak ninth transcendence power, he could see things others couldn't. Controlling a domain, only throne-level beings could do that. Even he himself had only just recently learned to concentrate his own domain. The next step toward complete control was still beyond his reach. Most importantly, the Black Wolf had already achieved domain fusion. That was the defining technique of the Heavenly King level. I returned to the dorm when morning came. A soldier approached me and handed me a locked box. "Commander Yang Xiao said to give this to you." I nodded. Back in my room, I opened the locked box. 6 high-level summoning materials immediately caught my eye. This was a little surprising. Were these rewards for killing all those mutant beasts? If that's the case, I might as well get the summoning started. I had been looking forward to summoning a creature with a sacred aura for a while now. After arranging the summoning materials, I reached out and spread my hand through the air. Then I activated the summoning art. The array patterns on my palm instantly began to glow. The moment the connection reached the other side, an intense and brilliant golden light burst forth. Then a humanoid figure appeared, long hair and wings both golden, radiating a sacred and pure aura. I glanced at its race, and I was struck with astonishment. An angel. Back at the Rift Canyon, Llewellyn had summoned a shadow image that possessed angel-like power, and she was the only one considered to have an SS-Rank talent, which gives you a sense of just how powerful the angel race truly is. As far as anyone knows, no summoner had ever successfully summoned such a powerful being, an angel, up to this day. After all, they never answered summons or formed contracts. But now, looking at the small golden angel before me, barely alive, both of her wings broken, I fell into thought. So instead of summoning something weak, I ended up summoning something broken. I smiled and shook my head. Because this little angel had answered my call, I couldn't let her go. I stepped forward and placed my finger on the small angel's pale forehead. In an instant, a voice echoed in my mind. Evaluation initiated. Loyalty. Will never betray. Initiate life-bound contract. Without a moment's hesitation, I chose to confirm. With a pain beyond imagination, a voice rose from the depths of my mind. Life-bound contract complete. Congratulations. Your summoned spirit has awakened a unique talent, cycle of sun and moon. The small, unconscious angel was immediately lifted by a vast and profound force. That force dissolved into countless sequences and seeped into her body. In a single moment, her severely depleted core power and life force began rapidly recovering. After quite some time, the small fairy's golden lashes gently trembled, and she opened her eyes. Twin golden pupils radiated a sacred aura. In her left eye, a magnificent blazing sun could faintly be seen rising and setting, filled with a grand and fierce presence. Her right eye radiated a cold, solitary calm, like a lone moon hanging quietly in isolation. Behind her, her soft golden wings blazed back to life. Slowly spreading open, they were breathtakingly beautiful in every sense. In every way, appearance, presence, and aura, she surpassed any limit the human imagination could reach. Small Fairy fluttered her wings and drew closer. Her tiny hands grabbed my clothes. In a hesitant and uncertain voice, she called out, "Master!" Looking at the small fairy, I smiled. "From now on, we're partners. What's your name?" I hadn't given her a random name. Angels are given a true name at birth, one that belongs to them and them alone. She said, "Diana." I nodded. Then, out of curiosity, I asked, "Diana, why did you agree to the summoning contract? You can't even be a year old. Logically, you should have refused." An angel, who normally would consider being summoned beneath her, had answered my call. Hearing my words, the light in Diana's eyes dimmed. She said, "I was cast down from the sacred tree and then corrupted by dark energy. The others have all gone too." Hearing this, I understood immediately. They had been attacked by enemies, and my summoning had saved her. Gently stroking her golden hair, I said, "You'll be okay. I'll take you back." Diana touched my hand and said softly, "Okay, Master." Then, with a thought, I pulled up the panel. Summoned creature, Eclipse, race, angel, level 20. Skill, Holy Blessing, grants the target a 50% increase in all of their own attributes. Radiant Purity, releases its power as brilliant light. Anywhere within heaven and earth, all wounds continuously heal, and a layer of sacred barrier is provided that blocks any attack. Talent, rotation of sun and moon. When the blazing sun hangs in the sky, nothing in all creation can remain hidden. Souls ignite. When the cold, lonely moon rises high, ring-shaped blades appear, and the true power of ultimate destruction is attained. When sun and moon meet, the moment of judgment arrives, and heaven and earth are stilled. Reading this, an expression of pure amazement crossed my face. The key was still the rotation of sun and moon. Whether the blazing sun or the lonely moon, both appeared incomparably powerful, and when the two combined, they could truly bring heaven and earth to a standstill. This directly touched the dimension of time. The angel race was truly extraordinary. I then put Diana away and started getting ready to head out into the forest to hunt. At that very moment, everyone in the command center was staring at the screens without blinking. They were eagerly waiting for me to come out, but when they saw nothing around me, they all felt disappointed at the same time. "We genuinely want to know, what's his third summoned beast? It definitely won't be weak, right?" Everyone started speculating among themselves. Yang Xiao didn't join in. Whatever the third summoned beast turned out to be, his projected assessment of my potential would never decrease. Not with that black wolf in the picture. At the same moment, deep inside the mountain range, a middle-aged man was muttering. After repeating some unknown words several times with pauses in between, the void began to tremble. Countless cracks spread across the physical plane as if glass was shattering. Then the space quickly bent from the tension and was torn open dozens of meters wide by a pair of deep black demonic claws. It wasn't long before 100 fallen emerged through it. Their power ranged between 4 rings and 5 rings, but nothing more powerful than that could pass through. The spatial tunnel was incredibly fragile, on the verge of collapsing at any moment. Truly powerful individuals could certainly open a stronger spatial channel, but doing so would directly break through the security manifestations and get detected by humanity. Yeah, this time I'm going to kill to my heart's content. Sensing waves of hostile energy approaching, the middle-aged man's face went a little pale, but he kept himself composed. You did bring the resources you promised, right? The leader, Liaku, glanced at the man with a hint of disdain, then he tossed a storage pouch in his direction. The middle-aged man caught it quickly with both hands. When his consciousness entered the pouch, his face instantly lit up with excitement. This material was enough to take him straight to the 7th transcendence, and all of this just for leaking a single piece of information about humanity. Liaku raised an eyebrow and said, "Quickly hand over the list of top talents in this region." The middle-aged man immediately handed over the list he had compiled over the past few days. "This person's name is Chenlin. Pay special attention to this one." Liaku was somewhat skeptical. "He's only level so-so and has no notable talent. Why should we pay attention to him?" The middle-aged man said, 3 days ago, he killed a mutant beast while overcoming a 28-level difference on a level so-so ranking. He also showed video proof. After seeing it, Liaku's face shifted completely to disbelief. Such terrifying combat power. In the Fallen clan, only those born of the supreme bloodline can do something like this. This human must not be allowed to live under any circumstances. Beside him, Lakar Ali's eyes lit up with an entirely different kind of interest. He licked his lips and said, "Let me handle him." Liaku furrowed his brow and said, "I know my sister probably likes him. She wants to corrupt and enslave him, but in reality that's no different from killing him." So he gave the order, "Find your targets and begin the hunt. Don't leave anyone alive." With those words, every fallen's face broke into a cruel smile, and then they all flew off in separate directions. A small nearby patrol drone immediately caught the scene. "A foreign clan? How did they get here? Alert all cadets to evacuate the mountain range immediately. All fighters are to be kept on full combat readiness." Looking at those fallen, every single one at least 4 rings, the female officer's face went serious. She began issuing one order after another without pause. Yang Xiao's face showed no surprise. He simply said, "Let's go." Then he turned around and walked straight out. The female officer nodded in agreement. She understood that Yang Xiao was probably heading out personally to provide support, but his serious injury would definitely get worse. The thought of it made hatred flash through the female officer's eyes. She blamed herself for not being a combat class. She had no strength to fight. The others clenched their fists as well. A shadow fell over their hearts. It wasn't long before silence fell over the command center. Only orders and messages continued flowing out one after another. At the same time, far away, a fallen woman with an exceptionally alluring figure slowly descended from a high cliff. Watching the silver-armored figure guarded by the massive black wolf, Leakerly smiled. "What luck! Found him this fast, and it looks like he's in a weakened state. This little toy is mine now." Leakerly licked her lips. Her figure lunged forward. Countless black tendrils scattered from every inch of her body. Sensing a wave of disgusting energy rushing toward me, I snapped my eyes open. My gaze went ice cold. Haiming, who had sensed it long before I did, was the first to raise his head and look. The moment Leakerly's gaze met Haiming's 2 pairs of gray pupils, a shudder ran through her body. "What's happening?" Her body was trembling involuntarily, but she quickly suppressed that shiver. Leakerly struck first. She flung her tendrils out and sent them all flying through the air. They descended on Haiming like a swarm of locusts. A golden light blazed across Haiming's entire body, stopping every single tendril cold. His gray eyes stared at her with cold indifference. The next instant, Leakerly's consciousness was transported to a dark, lightless place. A pair of cold, ruthless gray pupils opened. Beneath the gaze of those heavy gray eyes, boundless terror surged up and completely drowned her consciousness. Leakerly began trembling uncontrollably. Her body refused to move. She could only watch helplessly as Haiming stepped toward her one step at a time. Due to his massive size, he was in front of her in just a matter of seconds. Then a paw came down, pressing her into the ground. As Haiming began to consume her, black flames immediately blazed to life. Throughout the entire process, Leakerly, a level 56 fallen, was completely unable to resist, not even a little. The scene instantly lit up the atmosphere in the command center, which had been heavy and silent until now. "Excellent! The Black Wolf is incredible!" Hyming lifted his paw and said in a low tone, "Master, she didn't die, she escaped." Hearing Hyming's words, I responded in a cold tone, "Pursue her, make sure she's dead." Now that Diana was with me, sending Hyming off for a short while wouldn't put me in any danger. Understood? Hyming stomped off and sprinted away at full speed. Leakerly flew in panic toward the spatial channel. "This is terrifying. That Black Wolf is genuinely horrifying." Even now that those heavy gray eyes were gone, fear still had her completely in its grip. At that moment, all Leakerly wanted was to get out of here and go deliver the news. That humanity had now produced someone equal to the supreme-born children of the fallen clan. As for the talent-hunting mission on this side, it had already failed completely. With that terrifying Black Wolf around, any fallen that got in his way would be killed. At that very moment, a world-shaking crash rang out from behind. Leakerly froze in shock. Then Hyming's size suddenly exploded. He grew into a colossus over 1,000 meters tall. In an instant, he had covered dozens of kilometers. He appeared directly behind Leakerly. His massive paw, cloaked in shadow, came crashing down. The earth split open in every direction. The tremors spread 10,000 meters in all directions. Under Hyming's enormous paw, black flames completely swallowed Leakerly. Through the smart wristband, I had already learned that Fallen had arrived in the Balian mountain range. After thinking it through for a moment, I decided we would split up and hunt the Fallen separately. Now that there were two powerful summoned beasts, traveling together would just be a waste of time. With that in mind, I called up a miniature drone and directed it to guide Hyming's path. Hyming moved into action immediately. His gray eyes showed more restlessness than ever before. The female officer said with admiration, "It's only been a few days and he's already reached this level. Give him one more year. Could he really fight a throne?" Just thinking about it is hard to believe. Throughout history, only 85 throne-level supremely powerful warriors have ever emerged, and that's over more than a century. Every single one of them struggled for over a decade. They rose to the top through generation after generation of talent. Why are they so rare? A big reason is the foreign clans. On the vast meat grinder of the front lines, even the most outstanding talent can barely make a dent. Every assault launched by the foreign clans claims countless lives. Many throne-level warriors have been killed in those wars. Only 30 still remain today. Meanwhile, deep inside the mountain range, a woman in golden armor swung a blood-soaked and enormous war spear, holding off 4 fallen in a standoff. Beneath the terrifying red war spear, even the air was splitting apart. All 4 fallen couldn't face her head-on and were being forced back step by step. Watching all of this, Liaku furrowed his brows. He slowly formed a black spear between his hands. There was no time to waste here. There were more talents to kill. Liaku's body blasted forward in a flash. The black spear, driven by fallen power, surged forward at tremendous speed. Facing this sudden assault, Ji-Fei reacted with lightning speed. Qi and blood erupted through her entire body. The head of the halberd expanded in an instant. A fierce force spread in every direction. Ji-Fei's eyes burned with battle hunger. The war halberd lashed out, leaving a red arcing streak of bloodlight trailing through the air. Everything in its path was shattered. Liaku watched it all carefully and thought, "Such combat power at the 55th level. This one must be finished." Liaku instantly detonated with fallen power. Dark energy surged outward and spread across a 100-meter radius. The light dimmed in an instant. Seeing this, the other fallen also burst out with their power. Red light enveloped Ji-Fei's entire body. Qi and blood churned around her, resisting the corruption. Her eyes went cold. She said, "Trying to corrupt me? You're calling for your own deaths." She lunged straight at Liaku. As the war spear swung, cracks formed in the air, and she drove it toward him with everything she had. The 4 fallen immediately gave chase, attacking Ji-Fei from every direction. But Ji-Fei paid them absolutely no attention. Her speed had reached its extreme, brutal and relentless. She would not stop until Liaku was dead. Under the influence of the corruption, her armored burst state couldn't last much longer. When it broke, she could truly be assimilated. On the other side of the battle, Zikong saw the situation and his face immediately turned serious. He pushed his full transcendence to its absolute limit and lunged savagely at the level 56 fallen standing in front of him, desperately trying to cut through and get to Instructor G's side. Instructor G had been separated from the group because she had stepped forward to protect them. But the fallen had clearly seen her intention and, with cold laughter, immediately dragged her into a prolonged battle. Right then, Liaku drank a vial filled with gray blood. His aura surged out of control. It climbed all the way to a 6-ring throne-level power, terrifying beyond words. Liaku cracked a smile. He condensed a black spear in one hand, then he hurled it. The terrifying spear tip shot forward in an instant. Then came the sound of combat armor shattering. The black spear tore through flesh and burst out through Ji-Fei's back. Blood dripped from the spear tip and fell onto the ground. Seeing this, Liaku smiled and stepped forward. "Become my slave." At that very instant, a silver war spear came slicing through the air. It pierced through the dark energy and plunged into the ground beside Liaku's feet. A figure, clad in silver armor, came running from the distance. Liaku's eyebrows lifted slightly. He said, "My sister failed to kill you, which means she's dead now." Liaku's face showed no reaction. Even the death of his own sister didn't move him in the slightest. I looked over the situation on the battlefield. My gut told me immediately I couldn't handle this alone. With that thought, I awakened my mind. A humanoid figure less than half a meter tall, golden wings spread from its back, appeared. A sacred aura instantly spread through the surrounding air. The expressions of all 6 fallen shifted in an instant. They all looked toward her. An angel cut immediately after, their gazes burned with intensity. This is an infant angel. It has no offensive capability. In the fallen clan, corrupting an angel was considered the greatest badge of honor. The thought of it filled Liaku with excitement. Yes, Chenlin, I truly need to thank you for bringing me such a spectacular gift." When Diana felt those disgusting gazes on her, her brows furrowed. She recognized that dark energy immediately. These were the ones who had attacked her home. Fury filled Diana's eyes. Her wings spread wide and she rose into the sky. The faint image of a blazing sun appeared in her left golden eye. A terrifying, scorching golden light erupted from her body. Behind her, a massive, radiant golden sun, a full 1,000 meters wide, appeared hanging in the sky. At that same moment, Diana's body had taken on an adult form. Tall, slender, and perfectly balanced. A magnificent, boundless, and divine aura radiated from her golden eyes. Scorching golden light blazed downward. In just a few seconds, every trace of dark energy was purified. All 6 fallen felt as though their entire bodies had been plunged into hell. They writhed in agony. Their fallen power was completely suppressed. That sensation filled them all with pure terror. Throughout history, the fallen clan and the angels had always been deadly enemies, perfect counterparts to one another. But beneath this blazing sun, that balance had been shattered. "I will develop your souls and purify your grave sins." The moment those magnificent and serene words rang out, the enormous sun behind Diana burst with even more intense golden light. Its brilliance painted everything gold for 10,000 meters in every direction, as if a second sun had risen in the sky. The terrifying solar power shook everything around it. All 6 fallen's bodies suddenly ignited, engulfed in burning golden flames. The torment of their souls being incinerated forced them to cry out in an instant. Liaku's face twisted. The wild excitement from moments ago had completely vanished. Now there was only unbearable pain and rage. He detonated his fallen power in a frenzy. The 6-ring intensity combined with his activated talent doubled his power. He built a black barrier around his body to keep the golden flames out. But unlike Hyming's black flames, this attack was targeting the soul directly. It pierced through everything. Physical barriers were utterly useless against it. Only soul-level defensive measures could resist this purifying force. The dark energy scattered. Ji-Fei weakly lifted her head. She looked up at the figure in the sky, so magnificent, so astonishing, and so radiant. She looking at her directly was difficult. She broke into a smile. "You even summoned an angel. You never stop surprising me." Waves of holy power poured down alongside the golden light. Everyone's wounds began healing rapidly. Zikong, covered head to toe in injuries, felt a warmth wash over him. The pain from his wounds immediately eased. He threw all caution aside and went fully offensive. The moment the blazing sun appeared in the sky, the tide of battle turned completely. Liaku, who was well read, felt as though everything he had ever learned had betrayed him. Damn it, hadn't they said that infant angels only possess support abilities? A single moment of meeting Diana's magnificent golden gaze had sent shivers running through him from head to toe. His eyes started burning and bleeding, as if he were facing one of the supreme-born children of his own clan. He understood. He couldn't drag this out. If he did, his soul would burn to nothing. So he roared immediately, "Go kill that human!" Then the dark energy exploded. Liaku lunged toward Diana, trying to knock her down from the sky. Diana's face remained cold and expressionless. She slowly raised her hand. Countless burning blades of light materialized around her. They were fired at each fallen, carrying the power of development and incineration. Those blades of light pierced through Liaku's body in a single instant and sent him crashing from 100 meters up to the ground. At that moment, Diana stood so high in the sky it was as though she were some divine power, the ruler of the blazing sun itself. All the fallen gritted their teeth. Pierced by the golden swords, they weren't just injured. The fallen power within them was being purified, and the burning of their souls had intensified. Damn it! Under this blazing sun we can't fight at all. Liaku's face was venomous. He said, "Don't panic." That foolish emperor said reinforcements would come to surround them from all sides. The moment he finished speaking, several gray-robed figures came running from the distance. Each of them carried 6th-level power. The shadow symbol on their gray robes immediately gave them away to Ji-Fei. Her face blazed with fury. The shadow congregation, those cursed heretics. The congregation members paid no attention to her and leaped right past her. Their target was clearly me. Seeing this, Diana raised her hand. In a single instant, golden flames erupted, burning their souls. Blades of golden light took shape and flew toward them. But these congregation members chose to absorb the damage and push forward. In her sun form, Diana didn't actually have any truly destructive killing techniques. Then the blazing sun behind Diana slowly began to collapse. The right golden eye began to shimmer softly. Along with it, a lone moon rose. That cold, solitary moon hung high above, and in an instant, darkness fell in every direction for tens of thousands of meters. A pale silver moonlight illuminated the sky and earth, carrying a haunting meaning that gripped every heart. Every congregation member's face changed instantly as they looked up. In contrast to the blazing sun form, Diana's eyes at this moment were cold and empty, not a single trace of emotion. The sacred aura had disappeared too. Now only a terrifying chill spread in every direction. Her wings and golden hair had also turned silver white like moonlight. She stood against the backdrop of the lone moon like a proud and enigmatic deity. Around her, 9 ring-shaped blades appeared, wrapped in the deep red true power of ultimate destruction, slowly revolving. The moment Diana's cold, emotionless voice rang out, 6 ring blades sliced through the air at speed beyond measure and reached 6 congregation members in an instant. Their expressions changed. Each of them activated their abilities and tried to defend. But against the true power of ultimate destruction, which could pierce through any defense, their barriers crumbled like paper. Their bodies were split cleanly in two. At that very same moment, freed from the pressure of the blazing sun, Liaku immediately lunged upward toward Diana in the sky. A terrifying stream of dark energy condensed into a black spear more than 10 meters long and was hurled forward. The black spear screamed through the air at supersonic speed toward Diana. Diana's ring blades immediately flew out to meet it. The black spear was sliced to pieces. The remaining 2 ring blades instantly shot toward Liaku. The remaining fallen on the ground saw this and immediately charged at me. Bloodlust filled their eyes. This one must die. That black wolf has a 28-level gap in power, and that sun and moon controlling fairy is even more incredible. She's dominating fallen at levels 50 and 60. If she's allowed to fully develop, the consequences are unimaginable. But Diana immediately beckoned with one gesture, recalled all 3 ring blades, and redirected them toward the charging fallen. The 3 ring blades suddenly collided with each other, merged together, and instantly took the form of 3 interlocking rings. The true power of ultimate destruction wrapped around them became even more potent. In a flash of deep red brilliance, every single fallen was annihilated in an instant. Diana then turned back toward Liaku, who was still desperately struggling against the ring blades. She slowly raised her hand. All 6 ring blades began to merge. Seeing this, Liakuru frantically activated the royal throne bloodline within his body and threw the last reserves of his fallen power into shattering the 3 ring blades. Liaku fixed his gaze on me. His eyes burned with boundless resentment. An angel this perfect, why would it obey someone like him? But Liaku quickly let out a cold laugh. He pulled out a deep black disc. As it began to spin, the ground beneath it lit up in a 100-meter radius in an instant. The right to summon a throne had originally been intended for someone who awakened an SS-Rank talent, so that no powerful person could step in as a protector. My 2 summoned beasts had displayed a terrifyingly elite level of ability. He wasn't going to let me grow any further. In that same instant, countless mysterious characters began to interweave and coil together, forming a deep, massive black summoning disc. A second fallen over 10 meters tall slowly appeared. Its terrifying aura spread in all directions in a flash, making it nearly suffocating. Zikong and the others immediately went pale. A deep, helpless despair welled up inside them involuntarily. Waves of dark energy began flowing slowly outward. Wherever they passed, the grass and trees all withered and rotted. Diana's expression turned serious. She raised a hand, and the lone moon transformed back into the blazing sun. Even so, that brilliant golden light could not pierce through the darkness. I immediately sensed something was wrong. I was about to turn and run, but in the end, I didn't. Because just as that dense black web appeared, Yang Xiao came beside me, placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "I've been waiting a long time for this foreign throne. Don't be scared." Hearing those words, I understood immediately. This had all been a carefully laid trap from the very beginning. And sure enough, the foreign throne paid no attention to us whatsoever. Without any expression, it turned its gaze in the direction of the base. As the summoning trap rose upward, an unmatched and powerful aura burst out in an instant, a power that shattered the clouds above. It descended at a terrifying speed. In just a few breaths, it had arrived. Looking down at the young man standing there in the void, the foreign throne slowly began to speak. "Zhangju, you monitor the front lines. Aren't you afraid the defensive line you're protecting will fall while you've come all the way out here?" Zhangju waved a hand and said, "Doesn't matter. Our human race has already decided to leave everything to fate anyway." The foreign throne immediately understood it had walked into a trap, but it showed no particular concern. Zhangju looked downward and called out, "Still not leaving? Do you want to get crushed by the shock waves?" Hearing this, Yang Xiao immediately began moving everyone out of the area. This was a battle between throne-level beings. Even the shockwaves alone could destroy everything within millions of meters. Even if Zhangju's domain could isolate that force, staying here would only make them a burden. Seeing this, the foreign throne made no attempt to stop them. With Zhangju present, it couldn't touch anyone. Zhangju was one of the most active throne-level warriors on the front lines over the past 2 years, and almost every foreign power of significance knew his strength well. The moment we stepped outside, a second domain suddenly expanded outward. Despite the force isolation arrangement, the shockwaves still shook the earth for millions of meters in every direction. The rest of the group got busy clearing out the remaining fallen enemies. Yang Xiao had held me back. He said, "Chenlin, just let your summoned beasts go." I thought it over for a moment. It was possible. Silver Butterfly hadn't improved in quite some time. Against 4-ring enemies, she might lose. So I sent Diana alone to hunt the remaining fallen. Yang Xiao looked at me with emotion and said, "I truly never expected your third summoned creature to be an angel. An angel's combat power is no less terrifying than that black wolf. If she ever reaches the throne level, that would be like adding 2 throne-level powerhouses to humanity's side." Thinking on it, Yang Xiao continued, "The foreign clan thought they had exposed all of humanity's cards through a traitor. In reality, everything those traitors learned. We let it leak on purpose. All of this was done so that the foreign clan would believe they were in complete control, so we could deliver them a devastating blow later." He shared nearly everything with me without hesitation, placing tremendous importance on me. I had no questions. I understood now. I get how the game works. Humanity laid a trap according to the circumstances. First they killed the hidden elites. Then they lured a foreign throne into a trap and destroyed it. The price was the unrecognized sacrifice of a few talented people. But that's how war works. Just then, Haiming and Diana returned from the hunt. Diana reverted to her normal form and flew to my side. Her tiny hand was holding mine tightly. She looked exactly like my little daughter. After more than 10 hours of intense combat, the vast gray berserk field that had spread far and wide finally dispersed. A young man walked through the void and covered tens of thousands of meters in a single instant. His energy was drained terribly, and seeing it, Yang Xiao immediately stepped forward. "Brother Zhang, how did it go?" Zhangju said nonchalantly, "Just a run-of-the-mill foreign throne. I suppressed him without any trouble. What could have gone wrong?" But Diana, standing beside me, quietly activated Radiant Sanctity. She could clearly sense that the young man in front of her was struggling with serious corruption from fallen power. Zhangju's brow furrowed immediately. He said, "Little girl, do you really think you can heal my injuries? Wait, you're an angel, don't stop. Keep this going a little longer." Diana shook her head and said, "My holy power is already exhausted. The corruption you've suffered is far too severe. Even countering it with holy power, I can only clear a small fraction of it." Hearing this, Zhangju suppressed his discomfort and let out a heavy breath. "I've really taken a lot today." Confusion flickered in my eyes. Does being a throne really look like this? Yang Xiao quickly changed the subject. "Brother Zhang, let me introduce you. This is Chenlin." Zhang Ju immediately fixed his eyes on me. So you're the one who, once you're fully grown, is supposed to be able to pin my head to the ground and beat on it. My face went completely blank. Then he looked over at Haiming, who was bent down nearby. A gleam lit up his eyes. What a spectacular wolf. Let me ride it for a bit. He was already moving forward. But Haiming immediately sidestepped away, clearly very much against the idea. Zhang Ju's face hardened. He said, "What's that supposed to mean? Is it actually refusing me? If I can't ride this thing today, I'll write my name backwards." He was about to force his way forward, but Yang Xiao stepped in between. "Brother Zhang, that won't fly. This is an important partner for the future. We can't have any friction with it." Zhang Ju turned away. He clasped his hands behind his back. His voice was despondent. "I've done so much for humanity, and I still can't even ride a wolf. I guess I have no business being here anymore." With that, he slowly flew off toward the base. Yang Xiao and I immediately followed behind him. When we reached Yang Xiao's private office, Zhang Ju walked straight to the main seat and made himself completely at home. Yang Xiao asked, "Zhang, what's the situation on the front? Have things gotten bad again?" Zhang Ju had spent several years in the rear, suppressing a curse and preparing for the 10th transcendence. Mutual cooperation was needed to keep tabs on the changes at the front. "The foreign clan is probably about to launch another major offensive to weaken our combat power," he said in a grave, quiet tone. "They do this at regular intervals. Every time, at least tens of thousands of warriors are killed. Sometimes even throne-level warriors fall. They use their massive population as a weapon, pure trade of life for life. Humanity is entirely different. Every soldier's death is a pure loss for us, especially those with hidden classes, talents who would have inevitably reached 9th transcendence." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Ju tossed over a storage pouch. Inside it was filled with life crystals and various resources. "The ability your summoned beasts have shown is terrifying. Naturally, we won't hold back. The resources you deserve are far more than this." Those words stirred something inside me. I could clearly feel just how much he valued me. If I had chosen to develop in secret and suddenly revealed my strength, maybe I would have shocked everyone, but I almost certainly would have been killed by some alien throne before I ever got the chance. Exposing your talent was inherently dangerous now, but humanity never just sits quietly and does nothing. They were providing throne-level escorts for protection, and in return were offering extraordinarily generous resources. 505th, 6th level crystals and yuan fruit, worth 1,000 points each, given without hesitation. The reason humanity valued me this much wasn't because of the summoned beasts themselves, but because of my talent, my ability to give them terrifying power. I chatted with Yang Xiao for a while. Then I said my goodbyes and left. I returned to the mountain range and called Haiming. I fed him all the life crystals from the storage pouch. Haiming was immediately engulfed in black flames and began slowly absorbing the crystals. It wasn't long before the evolution value increased by 1,766 points, roughly 1/3 of the total requirement. From there, guided by the smart wristband's information on the locations of mutant beasts, I decided to head deeper into the mountain range and continue hunting. Over the next few days, every mutant beast above level 50 in the Balian mountain range was completely wiped out. In total, 16 level 60 colossal beasts and over 100 level 50 mutant beasts, all of them swallowed by Haiming. Haiming's body grew 15 meters larger. All attributes increased by 30 points each. Everyone in the command center was genuinely thrilled. With those colossal beasts dead and their leaders eliminated, the threat of creature attacks had dropped to almost nothing. What remained now just needed to be gradually cleaned up. The Balian mountain range would remain a safe zone for years to come. Yang Xiao smiled and nodded, though in his heart, he knew the matter wasn't over. On the outer boundary of the Wushan base's mountain range, mutant animals had disappeared, and that was not a good sign. It meant they had responded to some kind of call and were beginning to gather. The cadets stationed there rarely dared to go into the mountain range and had mostly retreated inside the base. In the past few days, fewer than 50 mutant animals had been killed. At this rate, colossal beasts would launch an attack very soon. Now that the pressure on this base has eased considerably, let's gather everyone up and help Wushan base. An hour later, Yang Xiao called me in. "Chenlin, you've cleared out the Balian animals. Now I'm sending you to Wushan base to lend support there." I agreed immediately. I was afraid there wouldn't be any large beasts left to hunt here anyway, so I had been thinking about heading to another base. Level 40 mutant animals were too little for Haiming. Seeing this, Yang Xiao smiled. "Everyone else should be ready too. There's no time to waste. Let's move out now." I went with Yang Xiao to the base's large transport aircraft. 50 people had already assembled there. Familiar faces, Ji Fei among them. Zikong stepped forward eagerly. Chenlin, I knew you'd come support us. How serious is the situation at Wushan Base? After hearing about it, I had agreed to go without any hesitation. Ji Fei walked toward Diana with a smile, Diana who was holding my hand. What an adorable little fairy, still in her infant stage, isn't she? Chenlin, you absolutely should not be doing anything weird with her. Diana looked up at me with curious eyes. Master, what does weird mean? Why isn't Master allowed to do weird things with Diana? In an instant, eyes from every direction locked onto me. Some had jealousy in them. Others looked downright dangerous. I made a face, completely at a loss for what to say. I just quickly got everyone onto the transport aircraft and flew toward Wushan Base. At that time, inside Wushan Base, the atmosphere was heavily tense. Every soldier was on full alert. All heavy weapons had been activated. Quite a few cadets were grumbling among themselves. Should we even stay here? Mutant animals are gathering. An attack is inevitable. The military has already said we can leave. At this rate, there's no way we can beat them all, so what's the point of staying? Some people have already left. You can't even blame them. Who could stop tens of thousands of mutant animals coming all at once? Comrades were making excuses one after another, justifying the retreat they had already decided on. Wang Feng clenched his fists tightly and said quietly, My family is in Pushan City. Whether it's a beast attack or the risk of death, I'm not leaving. Pushan City has tens of millions of people in it. Despite everything over the past few days, most people are still in the city. If we can't stop these animals, it won't just be one city that suffers. Many more will follow. At that very moment, a blue-green transport aircraft cut through the clouds and slowly descended toward the Wushan Base airstrip. Wushan Base Commander Cao Yu and a team of military officers were already waiting there. When Yang Xiao stepped off with the cadets, Cao Yu saw them and moved forward with excitement. You finally made it. He knew full well that Yang Xiao was a 9th Transcendence-level powerhouse. Yang Xiao said with a helpless expression, Old Sao, my curse still hasn't broken. Don't expect me alone to turn things around. Cao Yu's strong face was immediately lined with worry. The situation is very serious. Countless mutant animals are gathering toward 4 zones. A colossal beast on the verge of surpassing the 70th level is commanding them. They plan to attack simultaneously from multiple directions, making it nearly impossible for us to concentrate our focus in one place. He let out a sigh and then asked, How did things get resolved so quickly on your end? Yang Xiao smiled and said, Every mutant beast above level 50 in the Balian mountain range has been killed. He did all of it. As he said this, he turned to the side and pointed at me. Cao Yu immediately swung around from Yang Xiao's side and came rushing toward me with excitement. Cadet Chenlin, I was hoping you'd come. By the way, my grandson Tao Yang is your doormate. Cadet Chenlin, your things are this way. Let me take you there. Saying this, he took my hand and led me toward the logistics department. Several soldiers came carrying large black crates, each several meters long. Cao Yu smiled. Cadet Chenlin, all of this is yours. There's an empty warehouse. You can go in and look through everything at your leisure. I nodded in thanks and walked inside the warehouse. Opening the crates, they were filled with rare metals and life crystals. I summoned Silver Butterfly and immediately started fusing the materials. It wasn't long before the armor's weight reached 163 tons. Even a light step was enough to buckle the steel floor beneath me. After fusing all the materials, Silver Butterfly gained 8 more layers of sharpness, bringing the total, including the original 2, to 10. Killing anything below level 50 from the alien clan in a single strike was now no trouble at all. On top of that, it gained a new lava attribute and a shape-shifting attribute. I nodded with satisfaction. I was eager to head out into the mountain terrain and test these upgrades on mutant animals. The fusion of over 100 rare metals had multiplied Silver Butterfly's combat power several times over. I then followed Cao Yu out to an open field at Wushan Base. Over 100 people were gathered there. At first glance, I spotted a familiar face, Waju. Long hair framing a beautiful and striking face. Her manner was graceful and straightforward. I walked over to see her. Classmate Ju, she smiled back at me. Cao Yu stepped forward with a serious expression. These mutant animals started gathering since yesterday. Under the command of a level 69 Shadowhorn colossal beast, they're advancing simultaneously from 4 directions. Their goal is to split our forces and prevent us from responding as a united front. At least 2 colossal beasts are leading each direction, with targets being Wushan Base, WHN City, and Yunhai City respectively. Your job is to intercept and eliminate the beasts that break through, reduce their total numbers, and ease the pressure on the defensive lines. This operation will be divided into 8 groups of 20 people each. Any questions? Everyone answered in unison, no. Cao Yu immediately called out names and formed the teams. Yang Xiao stepped forward and added, Chenlin, you'll work alone? He understood my combat capability. Having others with me would serve no purpose. I had no objection, but the people around me were surprised. Even instructors had to work in teams. What made me different? 2 minutes later, all 8 groups had assembled. I summoned Haiming, over 100 meters tall, and charged toward the mountain range. Deep in the mountain range, the massive black wolf was running at full speed. Diana sat on his back, holding onto my neck. Her small frame fluttered in the wind. Like a little fairy, she was curious about everything. She didn't like the silence of the summoning space, and I hadn't forced her to go back in. Out in the dusty mountains, countless colossal beasts were crushing trees and rocks as they pushed forward, leaving devastation in their wake. At their front, 3 terrifying colossals, each over 1,000 meters in length, marched forward with their heads held high. Terrifying power clung to every inch of their bodies. A faint energy flowed through them entirely. Beneath them, countless mutant animals had shaken the earth across more than 100,000 meters of terrain. Their pace was terrifying and massive. In the command center, watching through drone feeds, several officers had grim expressions. Suddenly, a world-shaking blast echoed through the air. A black wolf, 1,000 meters in size, its entire body wrapped in black flames, blasted out from the side in a single moment. His speed was at its absolute peak. Even the air split and shredded apart. The terrifying force devastated everything in a radius of dozens of kilometers. A ferocious roar shook the sky and the earth. Sound waves rippled outward layer by layer. Every single mutant animal was frozen in fear and submission. All of them stopped in their tracks at the same time. Cao Yu's mouth hung open. Does he really fight like that? The mission clearly said to intercept the ones that broke through. Why did he go straight inside? There are 3 colossal beasts here. One of the 3 colossals, over 800 meters tall, with 2 curved tusks, each 100 meters long and a body covered entirely in red scales, slowly opened its mouth. What kind of beast are you, blocking our path? Haiming had no interest in conversation. He burst forward in an instant. Black flames spread 10,000 meters in every direction. The feeling of death slowly permeated the entire area, and alongside the flames, the life of every level 40 mutant animal caught within it was taken. An enormous, ghostly shape, nearly 3,000 meters tall, appeared. 2 heavy gray eyes opened and stared at the 3 colossals. Immediate fear flooded their minds. Those eyes, they could erase anything in an instant. Within this domain, no existence was beyond death. Even immortal life forms would be given a definition of mortality. Up in the sky, Diana directly activated Holy Blessing. The divine seal on Haiming's forehead blazed with golden light, pushing his power even higher. In his massive form, Haiming was already terrifying beyond measure. Even if Diana poured all of her holy power into him, she could only boost a small fraction of his capabilities. But even that boost instantly expanded the domain by another 20,000 meters. The power of the black flames doubled, becoming unimaginably horrifying. In just seconds, hundreds of level 40 mutant animals were reduced to ash. Their life crystals burned. The 3 colossals roared and surged forward. Don't call for death, kill it! Right then, darkness fell in every direction without warning. A cold moonlight descended, sending a bone-chilling cold through every creature. Diana stood high in the sky. Her cold and proud face gazed down at the earth with no emotion. A lone moon hung behind her. Around her, 9 ring-shaped blades wrapped in deep red true power slowly revolved. Then they suddenly shot toward the Ghost Flame Colossal Beast. The Ghost Flame Colossal Beast roared and its power surged. Strange markings emerged across its solid hide. But the ring blades sliced through them effortlessly, leaving dozens of wounds meters deep. Feeling the sharp burning sensation, the Ghost Flame Colossal Beast halted. It raised its palm and tried to swat the ring blades. But they evaded with ease. Under Diana's mental control, the ring blades glided alongside the Ghost Flame Colossal Beast's arm upward, carving a 100-meter-long gash. Seeing Diana completely tangled up with the Ghost Flame Colossal Beast, Haiming threw himself at the other 2 without hesitation. Every mutant animal in his path had its bones shattered on contact. The stone statue Colossal Beast let out a savage roar, swinging its enormous snout, covered in red scales, in a powerful sweeping strike toward the black wolf in front of it. Without waiting for any command, the blazing black paw of the spectral phantom flashed outward in a single motion. It tore straight through the stone statue colossal beast's scales and left 4 deep, bone-deep gashes. The centipede colossal beast standing beside it opened its terrifying spike-lined jaws and launched a sudden ambush strike. Hyming responded instantly, raised a paw and shoved it aside. Then he clamped his jaws onto the centipede's head. The deep red armored shell cracked on impact. Teeth tore through flesh and blood and drove inside. A stream of deep purple, highly toxic blood shot outward in a fierce spray. The centipede colossal beast screamed in pain and wrapped its body around Hyming. Countless sharp legs advanced toward Hyming, but an unbreakable layer of golden light stopped them cold. Hyming gripped the massive centipede in his jaws and flung it. It smashed through a mountain peak and crashed down beneath the rubble. Hyming's enormous body immediately followed. He raised a paw and pulverized the rocks. Then he drove the centipede colossal beast's head into the ground, pinned it down and began tearing it apart mercilessly. At the same time, all the flying mutant animals swooped toward Diana in the sky. Her expression didn't change. She reversed the ring blade's direction. 4 of them flew into the diving black swarm, weaving and threading through them, cutting down one flying mutant animal after another. Just then, the ghost flame colossal beast suddenly lunged at Hyming, trying to knock him down first. Hyming let out a terrifying roar. His gray eyes held no fear. His paw was still planted on the centipede colossal beast's head. In the next instant, he was locked in a struggle with the ghost flame colossal beast at the same time. All 4 colossals collided with each other non-stop. The earth shattered in every direction for thousands of meters. The tremors never stopped. The terrifying crashes and roars echoed 10,000 meters in all directions. Countless mutant animals scattered in panic. In fear of getting caught in the shockwaves, silence fell over the command center. Tao Yu stood there staring, jaw dropped. That wolf is that powerful? Level 20, holding its own against 3 colossals, a 46-level gap. All the military officers present were shaken. Their eyes refused to believe what they were seeing on screen. By now, the entire mountain range had transformed into a world of black flames. 4 colossals were locked in an earth-shaking, frenzied battle. The scale of destruction was staggering. The terrifying phantom standing 1,000 meters tall radiated an aura so domineering and ruthless it felt as though it could swallow millions of lives in one breath, and just witnessing it was nearly suffocating. Then Diana stopped in the sky. She had completely annihilated hundreds of flying mutant animals. Their broken corpses were scattered across the ground below. The ring blades then began revolving around each other and merging together. The deep red light grew more and more intense. As that terrifying power flowed through them, even the air was destroyed. The 9 ring blades became one. A deep red ring blade more than 100 meters long formed in front of Diana, hovering in the air. An aura that filled every mutant animal with dread spread in every direction. Deep red true power flowed through the ring blade as it spun. The silver-white moonlight behind her slowly shifted to deep red. The red light painted the sky and earth thousands of meters in every direction, as if the world had been plunged into hell. In that moment, the lone moon's most destructive form had arrived. Diana's cold, emotionless voice rang out slowly. "Welcome your death!" In a single instant, the deep red light blazed to its peak. Taking the shape of a terrifying red shadow, it sliced through the sky and drove toward the centipede colossal beast. At the moment of contact, the ring blade didn't hesitate for even an instant. It cut clean through the centipede colossal beast's 1,000-meter-long body entirely. In just seconds, the centipede colossal beast was reduced to an unrecognizable pile of pulp. A level 65 colossal beast had been killed outright in a single strike. A power that terrifying was shocking even to me. Diana's ring blade in its destructive form already had terrifying defense-piercing capability on its own, and beyond that, she still had the even more devastating sun-moon combined form waiting. Even so, at that very moment, the deep red moon visibly dimmed. This technique had clearly been far too costly for Diana, but she still had a little power remaining. With complete concentration, she directed the ring blade and in an instant struck toward the ghost flame colossal beast. Terror exploded in the ghost flame colossal beast's mind. It instantly grew thick, hardened skin, but it made no difference. The ring blade split its body cleanly in two with a single strike. Then the deep red moon in the sky could no longer sustain itself and rapidly began to collapse. Diana's tall, perfect adult form instantly reverted back to her small, childlike shape. The cold and proud expression was replaced by a hint of innocence. She blinked, then quickly flapped her wings and went to find her master. On the other side, Hyming had also swiftly finished off the stone statue colossal beast. Haiming stood in a sea of black flames. The fire hungrily devoured the fallen colossal's body. In the operations room, Commander Cao Yu was still a bit stunned. He felt like this was all too unbelievable to be real. The mission had been simply to intercept part of the mutant beast formation. But I had stopped all of them. I alone had wiped out thousands and tens of thousands of mutant beasts across the entire front. My single-handed results far exceeded the combined contribution of everyone else. This meant the threat approaching from Wushan City's direction had been completely eliminated. Tao Yu's face lit up with excitement, and the anxiety that had covered his face eased considerably. Before, the chances of holding the front were less than 10%, but now hope had been reborn. In the mountains, the black flames rapidly consumed every carcass and life crystal, then returned into Haiming's body. From the converted energy, Haiming grew another meter. All his attributes increased by 2 points each. All of my own attributes increased by 1 point each. The energy converted from those colossal beasts wasn't all that much by Haiming's standards. But for me it was different. Even receiving just 1/3 of it was a significant boost for me. At this point my attribute values weren't far below those of a level 30 hidden class holder, and combined with Silver Butterfly's terrifying enhancements, I could now destroy a level 40 mutant animal in a single strike. As for level 50 mutant animals, it still required dozens or more strikes to kill them. At this level, facing some of the weaker colossal beasts head-on was no longer impossible for me, and my next target was to attack Wushan City. A special shout-out to our precious members.